Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Hello again and welcome to the ultimate Cleveland sports show. Where's G. Bush? Where's G. Bush, McNuggets?
Are you just realizing he's not here?
No, but I figured the audience is just realizing he's not here.
That
and I
way.
think we should address that off the top.
Yeah.
Is he just taking an off day today?
His wife is getting, I don't want to say the wrong word, but he's with his wife going through some process for citizenship. And I don't know exactly what.
Nothing medical.
That could have been surgical. You left us hanging.
We
I'm
were
like,
like,
is she okay?
She's getting what?
She's fine.
No,
Okay,
she's
good.
fine. He's okay.
All right, good.
He's
What?
with her. She's going through whatever.
I want to address
court
that right
process
off.
she's going
Yeah.
through.
Very
But
good.
He'll
All
be
right.
back tomorrow.
All right, very good. Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I'm Jay Crawford, and I would like to file a missing team report on the Cleveland Guardians. 5 straight L's. We'll talk more about them later in the program.
Yeah.
And I'm Jason Lloyd. The barber shop is closed while I'm in for Garrett Bush. You see that? You see that? That's what happens when you try and trim your own beard. And I gave you a whack. And it was like the viral clip of, no one's going to know. They're going to know. And I'm like, no, it's all right, it's
How
not
will
that
they
bad.
know?
And I saw a couple clips from the show. I'm like, oh, my God, it looks awful.
Yeah.
They're going to
So
know.
I almost shaved the whole thing after I saw the clips. But no, I'm going to wear it. I'm going to wear it. So
Looking
I
good.
will never trim my own beard. I will leave it to Garrett. My barber
Yeah,
shop
be
is
careful.
closed.
Live and learn.
Be careful.
Hey guys, I'm Mike Polk, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about a potential Cavaliers trade in the works that's just a rumor and probably isn't a real thing.
And I'm the actual Jason Lloyd. This is the real Jason Lloyd. And let me tell you, I'm keeping that freaking car, and my wife can stick it.
Boom! Take that.
You got mighty handsome over the last 24 hours.
He shaved the beard. Look at him. There he is. That's what you look like underneath
my
that beard. Don't shave it, brother. Keep it. All right, let's dive in today where, of course, the NFL news is the big news today.
Wait, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard.
Yeah.
The NFL today is hearing the case of Deshaun Watson basically versus the NFL. The NFL, according to multiple reports, are going to ask for a 1-year suspension, basically an indefinite suspension. After 1 year, he would need to reapply for standing status in the NFL.
He'd basically be being kicked out of the league.
Essentially, you're
Yes.
right. He would have to reapply for admission back into the NFL.
Right.
We're familiar with that here because Josh Gordon had
Correct.
to go through that.
He loved that process.
Well,
Loved
it's a
that
fun process. It's a fun
You know?
process. The hearing is today. We haven't heard too much in the way of what Deshaun Watson is going to push for. We're going to find out hopefully after. I don't know if they're going to speak to the media. They probably won't, but I'm sure there will be leaks. Bull,
Yeah.
what do you think we're going to learn from today's process?
I don't think we're going to learn that much, or at least I don't think we're going to get any answers today. I think it's going to take some time. I think the NFL is going to try to keep the details of this hearing, or multiple hearings, I guess, kind of quiet, although it ends up always getting out anyway. So I don't know that we're going to learn anything, but I do think it's interesting, and we'll play this clip of Albert Breer in a minute, about why the negotiations broke down. And, I've been saying for a while that I just don't buy the NFL really wants to suspend him indefinitely, and it seems like I'm wrong. I'm still holding out hope that I'm right and that this is all one big. I'm usually the anti-conspiracy theory guy. I don't really believe any conspiracy theories except this one. Yeah. That the league down deep is just putting all this out there so they look tough, but they don't really want him suspended for that long, or won't suspend him ultimately.
Mike, what do you think is going to happen?
I think they're putting. I mean, the problem with this is the unprecedented nature of so much of this, and that's why we're having such a hard time pinpointing what's going to happen.
Correct.
The uncertain nature of the charges in that we're still under the statute of limitations. just because some women haven't complained yet, I think the league's nightmare scenario is that they're going to say, this is the punishment you're getting, and then 2 months later, you get a couple more accusers come out, and you're like, what about these ones? And it's like, well, we already took care of that, so whatever's done is done at this point. They can't do that, so that's part of it. I do think that another part of it is that we don't know exactly, like we've got these 4 accusers who are still out there who have not settled yet. They don't like that that's unsettled. And until that's settled, I think that most of this stuff is just lip service. I don't think that we're actually going to be able to get any real information yet today. Even when we hear, this is just the starting point today. They're not going to settle anything and come out of that room and say like, well, that's all done. Yeah. He gets this many games because we still have an appeal process. You got other interested parties and interests, like other NFL teams who are looking at this. We've got the contract situation with Deshaun when other teams are trying to sign long-term contracts with their quarterbacks. So that affects them. All of these factors. We got Houston getting sued as a team. Other teams are like, does that involve us? Should we stand up for Houston because we're the NFL? Like, do we need to actually come out as well and say, you can't sue that team to cover our butts down the line? There are just way too many moving parts right now, and I love listening to people who are just like, I know what's going to happen, and here's what's and no one knows what's going to happen.
Nobody
right
knows.
now. What about you, Jace? What do you think?
I'm really fascinated to see how this plays out, because in the typical NFL arbitration process, and that's not what this is, but in like what Hugh Jackson came after the Browns, there's a confidentiality agreement that goes along with those arbitration proceedings. So does that apply here? Honestly, I don't know the answer to that. Are there going to be leaks, or is this all going to stay very confidential and buttoned up? Secondly, 20 of the cases have settled. So how is that going to impact Sue Robinson? And it sounds as if the information from those 20 cases are not going to be brought. What difference does that make? I don't know. But 4 or 5 is a lot smaller of a number than 24. So in a court, in an actual courtroom, those 20 would be thrown out. Are they here? Do they influence her decision here? Does it influence the NFL's punishment? Sure sounds like it is, even though the cases are settled. The horses are out of the barn and the information is still out there. So how does that apply, and how does that impact any sort of decision that's coming down? There's just so much that we just don't know, and we're just sort of navigating all this together. I'm really trying to withhold judgment until we get to the end of this, and I'm trying not to burn down the Browns until we know he's out for a year. I'm trying not to come down on Deshaun until we hear the end of it, but it's getting harder and harder and harder, and everybody's sort of dug in on their side, and we heard Garrett yesterday say, hey, if you're going to come after him, how can you do that if you didn't go after Dan Snyder and Jerry Jones? And he's right. But at the same time, that's sort of dismissing the horrific allegations that we're talking about here. So it's messy, it's complicated. I'm sick of talking about it. I just want finality to it so we can move on to football. One way or the other, let's get clarity on this so we know what we're dealing with when training camp begins.
Yeah, to Mike's point, as much as we would love to have clarity, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I'm sure, to your point, they're not coming out of there today and jointly speaking to the media saying this is what we've decided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think the most likely thing that's going to happen today is they're going to each pitch their side. They're going to pitch their case. And then it's in the hands of Sue Robinson. And then we'll probably have to wait an unknown amount of time before she actually comes forward with what she's going to recommend as a punishment. Now, if she recommends no punishment, this deal is over. That's it. I went through the process yesterday. Yeah. If she decides that there is a punishment in order, and I can't imagine that she doesn't issue.
The earth will stop
spinning.
She says there's no chance.
There's no chance that will happen. So
look, he's all good.
Yeah. The next step from there would be the NFL could appeal, and that appeal goes to Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell would then either rule on the appeal himself, or this is what I think he'll do, because the optics of him ruling on it himself would be awful. I think he then would appoint someone else who then would decide.
A fall guy.
Pretty much a fall guy is right, because
not my fault.
And
it's this guy who I hired.
I don't think Roger Goodell is tone deaf enough to think that he can actually rule on an appeal. You mentioned the Albert Breer soundbite. Let's get to that, because Albert yesterday on the Dan Patrick Show was basically talking about how we got to the point where the league is pushing for this indefinite suspension. Listen.
My understanding is that the settlement talks collapsed over the league's insistence on a year suspension, and now they're going to be looking for something indefinite, where he'd have to apply to get back in after a year. And then the union is going to ask for much lighter punishment on the basis of the league's case not being as strong as a lot of people think it is.
You know what's fascinating, guys, is that, Mike talked about all the things that are hanging out there, all the balls in play, right? But if Albert's right, and Albert is obviously one of the most connected NFL guys there is, if he's right, then it sounds like had Deshaun agreed to a 1-year suspension, that maybe it would have already been announced, even with all the things, even with the uncertainty out there,
That's what he
that
said.
they may have been willing to just say, okay, it's a year, we'll see you in a year.
What does it tell you that he didn't take that? That the Browns and Deshaun Watson didn't accept that 1 year?
They were never gonna accept a year. Like that we talked about yesterday. That's disastrous if it's a full year. The Browns entered this and made the trade believing it was going to be far less than a year. And no one's ever put a number on it. But I said it before. At the owners' meetings, the NFL owners' meetings, right after the trade, as we were talking to people throughout the organization, the message that kept coming back to me was cautiously optimistic. We are cautiously optimistic that it's not going to be anything that debilitates the season. And fill in whatever number you want there. But certainly a year is not cautiously optimistic.
No, but this is essentially a plea bargain offer.
Right, yeah.
And if it's there, and you know that there's a potential that it could be worse than a year, at some point you're looking at the cards you're holding and you're making a decision, do I like this hand or not? And the Browns and Deshaun clearly like their hand. They like it enough to think that they can get less than a year.
I know that, again, I think it's the important thing that we're looking at here is the precedent, and that's why everybody is watching this so carefully, because we can't look at this as an individual case and be like, well, we figured out that Deshaun Watson thing, and because NFL owners, the NFL Players Union, they're all looking at this and saying, whatever we decide on now is going to dictate the future in a lot of the in future cases
Set
like
the bar.
this. Set the bar. So we gotta make sure that we're fighting it to the degree that we want to make sure that that precedent that gets set is something that people can point back to and say, well, in that case you only got this, or in that case you gave him this many games. So I think that's what's going to makes these negotiations so much more complicated.
And this is Sue Robinson's first player discipline hearing. Right. There were reports that she was recommending that Dan Snyder be forced to sell the Washington franchise.
Right.
I mean, now clearly that didn't happen.
Right.
But it gives us, if that's true, and we assume that report is true.
I mean, she's got the hammer.
It gives us some
Sue's got the
insight
hammer.
that Sue wants to come down hard on this.
I mean, not to mention he's refusing a congressional subpoena.
Yes.
Snyder.
What's that?
Not Deshaun. Snyder.
Right. Yeah.
Snyder. Yes. Well, that's what I'm talking about. So, this guy, there's so much bad about him out there, and he's essentially not been punished. This idea that he's been suspended and his wife is running the team is absurd.
Right.
Of course.
Of course he's involved.
But what's interesting to me is, so the optics will be Sue Robinson wanted to come down hard on an owner,
right?
And the league dismissed her recommendation.
Yes, exactly.
What if Sue Robinson wants to come down hard on the player and the league is okay with that? Again, it's all about optics and how there seems to be two different tiers of justice for players and owners in the NFL.
I just realized that the Dan Snyder thing is like when when Fidel Castro was removed from power in Cuba, and he's like, all right, well, my brother's in charge now.
Yeah, right. Yes.
So everything's cool.
Well,
right?
when the DeBartolos lost power of the 49ers, there was something very similar that happened with that as well. Whenever there's like a transfer of power within the family, I'm like, okay, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Sure, you're not running the team. Yeah. So I think you said something that was very smart earlier about.
I did?
Yeah, you always do
that.
But the one thing that and Mike, you kind of made these comments too. It's just like we don't know, and quite frankly, I know that the audience is sick of hearing people try to talk as if they do know.
I'm especially sick of hearing sports calling people calling and say like, no, speaking legally, my brother's a lawyer.
Yeah.
And he said,
or my neighbor.
My neighbor's cousin's a lawyer, so I think I speak from a place of knowledge.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mike, those people make me a lot of money for that.
I know they did.
So how long before we have a ruling? Because I had initially, Jim Donovan was reporting a couple of weeks ago that the Browns expect to know by prior to the 4th of July weekend. That tells me that the league probably had told them that the hearing was going to be today, weeks ago, and they knew. I was sort of conspiracy theorying, not knowing what I'm talking about, but guessing that they would news dump this on Friday, July 1st, heading into the 3-day weekend, because it gives them an extra day of cover from any criticism or the heavy news cycle rotation that this story is going to get. Do we think, is it possible that by Friday we could hear from Sue Robinson? Or is that too soon in your mind?
No, I think it's possible. Let's wait and see how long this goes. I don't even know. Do we even know how long this is going to go? Is it one day?
No, we don't know if it's 1 day or 2.
That's what I'm saying.
We haven't heard.
We don't
I think we
know.
definitely could hear something by Friday.
Oh yeah, I think that's very feasible. They'll take today, possibly tomorrow. I think it probably depends on how long the process takes.
Right.
I can't imagine it going more than 2 days.
The conspiratorial person might say, picture the NFL with both lawyers in a room 5 months ago with Sue, with Roger Goodell.
Here's
Everybody's
how it's
saying,
gonna go.
here's
That's
how
what
it's
I
going to
said
go. And then
yesterday.
this week we'll do this. Then you'll release this. And then we'll say, well, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And then like red
That's
yarn
exactly
going
what I said
everywhere.
yesterday. These are actors
Yes.
playing out roles
and now,
in a pre-written play.
It would be the perfect time to release something like that. Friday is always the perfect news dump spot, as we know, especially before a holiday weekend. So he'd be like, right there, we'll do that. That'll slow things down. We got the congressional hearings for January 6th going on simultaneously.
Yeah.
This is going to be perfect. Nobody will see it.
And by the way, one angle of this, and I'm sorry, Mike, I know you asked me to hold this until another day, but I really feel like I got to bring it up now.
In other words, McNuggets, he's giving you the stiff arm.
Yeah, I'm
No,
sorry.
he
Mike.
is. But
You're
hey,
getting Heisman.
just so everyone knows, Bull, bring it up. If we don't get fully into this apple, we will
We can get
return.
it. I
and
got to
take
bring
the
it up
rest of the
because
bite
I
tomorrow.
feel like a lot. So we've talked about why Cleveland is a great sports town, and I've talked about the fact that people take their sports personally. It's part of who you are as an individual in Cleveland more than any place I've ever spent any time. And not that there
Even
may
New
not
York.
Be, by so much more. Not even close. That's why everybody has at least some level of interest. You take it personally. So when the national media, the evil national media, makes negative comments about the Browns especially, but any of the Cleveland teams, I think people in this area take it personally because I think people here more than anywhere else feel like the team is a part of their city and who they are, and it's more intertwined than it is in other places. And so when this suspension comes down, if it ends up being a year, the Browns are going to get trashed, right? They're already being killed by a lot of people. They're going to get destroyed in the national media, and then our fans are going to get very angry and take it personally. But here's the thing. I don't buy this narrative that even if Deshaun Watson misses a whole year, that this was a terrible trade. Now, we could argue that if we knew it was going to be a whole year, maybe they would have given up a little less. Mm-hmm. But the reality is we knew there was going to be a suspension, at least a quarter, if not half of the season. So I don't know that they would have given up that much less because there were a ton of teams that wanted Deshaun Watson.
You can't judge a trade until it plays out, until his time plays out.
Exactly.
But it would certainly have an incomplete grade next to it with an arrow going down. This isn't how they thought it would start.
No doubt. But the bottom line is Deshaun Watson's still really young. And when you acquire a quarterback that you think is great, and he's already proven that he's a great talent, you're not doing it for 1 year. You're doing it because they want him to be the quarterback for the next 15 years. So in the long run, this year is a disaster, obviously, and you're wasting a year of some really
That's
good,
a very fair and good
players.
point, Bull. That's a good point.
But in the long run, it could still turn out to be a great trade. So you're going to have to deal with them killing Cleveland and the team, and you got to hold your tongue because they're right for a year. But in the long term, this is far from determined.
If he goes on to win a Super Bowl 2 or 3 years down the road, you can't judge this trade anything other than being a complete success.
That's
but
right.
even with the suspension.
Retroactively, though, pretend they announced this trade when it happened and they announced it, and we knew then, and they told us then, they're like, but he won't get to play for a year. Then everybody, well, we've got this team this roster that's ready to go, and with the narrow window, telling this fan base, it's like, just so you guys know, we know you've been very patient. I know you got that playoff win a couple years ago.
You got to wait another year.
But you got to wait another year while you watch all these great players get older. Everybody would have freaked
out. To
out.
Bull's point, they wouldn't have had to give up 3 first-round draft
maybe give up a little
if
less.
they knew that.
But you still would have had to give up a lot. Not quite as much, but a lot.
Right.
I still would have been in favor of the trade personally. I wouldn't have been as excited as I was.
Even if the trades, even if everything was the same as far as the parts and pieces, or pieces and parts, like how much
I
they
think they would have got a little. But
not if they gave up 3 draft
even
picks.
Even if they did, and I knew for sure it was 1 year and that was it, I still say, well, I got Deshaun Watson for a decade after that. I'm good.
There's the collateral damage of the fallout of the relationship with Baker, which I was all for moving on from Baker and trying to upgrade that position. But at the same time, you've now taken a step back this year. Jacoby Brissett is not as good as Baker Mayfield. So that is something to factor in. And secondly, where I think you can come down on the Browns is they insisted and screamed to the heavens to anyone who listened. They did more homework on this than anyone. They did their due diligence.
That's the problem I had with it.
Part of the due diligence is knowing what's coming from the league.
Right.
And to be completely blindsided by a year's suspension.
The most important part of the due diligence, really.
Well, there's no way they could know what the league was going to do.
You have to. You have to.
I mean, we
You
don't
have to know the
now.
worst case
but
scenario.
see, here's the thing: we don't know now what the league's going to do.
So
I
they
think
pretended
the part
like they
that upset
did
me,
know.
Jason, was it's impossible to have done your due diligence.
Yeah.
Without talking to the women.
It was absurd.
That's just impossible.
Yeah.
And that's what I think most fans were upset about.
They
when
felt like they
heard.
needed to say that at the time.
Jimmy's comments were, as has been often the case here, were ridiculous.
Well, here's actually where I think I understand why they didn't talk to the women, because the NFL talked to half of the women, and the Browns theoretically, realistically, would have access to all of those interviews. So what are they going to ask these women that the NFL investigators did not ask? Or were there questions that they could have come up with that the NFL didn't think of? Possibly, but they have all the notes right there of everyone that they talked to. But I will say, I think I mentioned this on the show before, when they read the New York Times article, was there anything in that article that they didn't already know? I bet you the answer is yes. And that's where you fall short on doing due diligence.
Well, the number 66, Deshaun didn't even know.
Well,
One reporter from the New York Times should not be, and she spent 17 months investigating this, and the Browns did not. But one reporter from the New York Times should not be able to accrue more information than an entire NFL team with all of the assets at their disposal.
Who claimed that was the most intense investigation that's
ridiculous.
ever done.
And with
ever.
the future of your franchise,
And
riding
by the way,
upon your
another
success.
possibility is that the league, was so ticked off by the contract of Deshaun Watson that they decided to be more
could have been a
harsh
factor.
with the
And that's where I don't know if we'll ever know the answer to this. When the Browns say they're cautiously optimistic that it's not going to be a suspension that derails the season, and now we're talking about a year. Did something change? Did the NFL go back on something that they told the Browns, or did the Browns not really fully investigate what the suspension was going to be in the first place?
That's what I'd like to know,
I don't know
too.
if we'll ever know the answer
I don't
to
think
that.
we will either,
Probably
because
not.
I don't think the Haslams will ever come out and say
But
that.
those two things don't align. What we were told when the trade
No,
was
they
made
definitely don't.
and where we are today does not
And
align.
Bull, that's why, to your original point, that they're gonna get pounded by the national media if he gets a year. I think that's fair, but I don't think it would be fair if they went so far as to judge the trade a complete disaster.
Right, but they will.
I'm hoping
Yeah.
the way the national media parcels this out is they say the Browns, in making the biggest trade that the franchise has ever made, do we agree on that?
Yeah,
Maybe in the league's history, claim that they did the most thorough investigation that they've ever done, and we're here.
Yeah.
They deserve to get a
no
lot
doubt.
of heat for that.
The owner certainly deserves heat for that.
But
100%.
But to label it a failure and a complete disaster,
Right, that's wrong.
And now look, we don't know that he's going to play a decade. That's the hope.
Yeah.
How many quarterbacks play into 37? The
Yeah.
vast majority of them don't see their 37th birth
Mm-hmm.
year in the NFL. Tom Brady's a freak, and
Right.
And there are other guys. I mean, I think Drew Brees was
Not a lot of
exception.
not a lot of wear and tear on this quarterback right now.
Well,
I
there
gotta
is.
say that.
Yeah, he's certainly fresh.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's 8 years, whatever. If he plays at a high level,
Look, if we get 5, you had
Yeah.
said I can't remember if it was what we were listening to Albert Breer or before the show. He said that the contract pauses if he's
Yes,
out of the league.
that is correct.
So they would still have 5 years of control of
They
Deshaun
would.
Watson.
Yes.
So I suppose, particularly if he comes out and plays really well the first 2 or 3 years, it's good that you have that.
5 full years is better than 4.5.
Yeah,
if you're looking at it from a contractual standpoint.
Absolutely. I mean, particularly if he plays well in the.
What does that do
Wait,
to
let
the
me
money?
just clarify what you said, Jay.
Yeah.
Just so everyone understand at home, because
Right.
I want to make sure I understand too.
Yeah.
If he gets suspended for the entire season, the contract, they don't lose a year of the contract.
Contract
it just gets
pauses.
pushed back a year.
Yes. Everything moves
exactly.
back 1
Yes.
year.
What-
So
nothing-
would the
and
money
with the
get
money-
pushed back a year too? So
Well, I
he may-
imagine the terms. I imagine he wouldn't be paid.
No, he doesn't
And
get
then
paid,
for
right.
2023, his salary would be $1 million, and then
the signing
all of the
bonus.
escalators kick
Yeah.
in for year 2, 3, 4, and 5.
It just gets pushed back a year.
Okay.
That's it.
And
Everything
so to
is-
clarify, so everyone
that is
understood
a
what was
very
happening.
small silver lining.
Yeah.
In the cloud of 1 full year suspension.
Right.
So there's
Yes.
that. I mean, it's not like, well, now you've got a 4-year contract
Right.
with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
You'd
Yeah, I
still
mean, the
have him
big
for 5
negative
years.
is obviously you have some high-paid players on this team. You're going to start having to deal with salary cap potential issues. You spent a lot of money at running back. You spent a ton of money on the offensive line.
David
Miles
Njoku.
Garrett, Denzel
Yeah.
Ward,
all the
David
other
Njoku.
contract clocks keep ticking.
Yeah, they
obviously.
do.
So
and let's face it. I mean, if Jacoby Brissett plays 17 games, the Browns are not going to the playoffs.
You hear that, Jacoby? Shots fired.
No offense. I mean, they're not. I mean, you never know, but it's unlikely.
The Brissett heads are so pissed right now.
Listen, if you had to put money down on playoffs or not with Jacoby for 17, the smart play would be not.
Yeah.
But
in this division,
stranger things have happened. I think we can all, when Tom Brady did miss his one season due to injury, I don't think anybody thought that Castle was going to come in and take them to the playoffs.
Right.
But the infrastructure and the system in New England were there, and they executed it.
Yeah.
The talent's here. That's why, I know the Baker thing is gone and done.
Yeah.
But I would hate to see this team go 10-7 and just miss the playoffs with a Jacoby Brissett when I think we all agree Baker is a better quarterback.
Yes.
Would Baker have been the difference in 1 or 2 games to get you into the party, to give you a chance to win a Super Bowl?
And that goes back to the collateral damage where I'm talking about. You said you'd still make the trade even if you knew he was out for a year.
Yeah.
Well, the collateral damage comes down to the way that it just absolutely destroyed the relationship with Baker. And I just don't think there's any reparation to that. There's no coming back from that.
Yeah, but would you rather have one more year of Baker and then who knows for the years after that, or have 1 year of Jacoby Brissett and then 5 years of Deshaun Watson?
Baker, personally.
I'm with you.
I would pivot and go the other way.
Yeah.
I would say Jimmy
I want to
G.
have a fun year watching
Oh,
football.
no,
I would
okay,
say Jimmy G for a year,
and that's
then
an option
Deshaun
too.
after that.
That's an
That's
option.
how I would
I'd be better. I
Yeah,
prefer
I mean,
that.
look,
I do think if Watson is suspended for a year, they will try to get another quarterback.
You have to try.
You have to.
You can't
Yeah.
go into the year with Jacoby Brissett because you
And
have now downgraded.
Garoppolo is
at
probably
most
the
important
best guy
position.
you can get. I
Yes.
mean, and I actually think, and even though I've said this, even though Baker's a little more talented than Garoppolo, I think Garoppolo's a better fit for this team. Just like I said, listen, I think Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes may be more talented than Joe Burrow, but as a Bengal fan, I wouldn't trade Joe Burrow for any quarterback, even if he's not as talented. as
Well,
some
you're
other
talking
guys.
about 3 elite guys.
Right, but even at the lower level, I don't think the gap between Garoppolo and Baker Mayfield talent-wise is that big a deal. So even though Baker's a little better, I'd rather have Garoppolo.
There's $7 million more salary for
Yeah,
Garoppolo.
but none of it's guaranteed, so they can work that potentially.
Well, he's guaranteed that number this year.
He's not. If he's on the opening day roster for the Niners, it becomes guaranteed.
Well, yeah, but if a team trades for that contract.
Right, but you would assume that he'd be reasonable in a negotiation.
I would hope so.
potentially.
McNugget has a little nugget on
Baker. Yeah, so we had a whole what the internet's sayings on Baker. I'm going to switch it to what Baker actually said today, but as always, we're going to read you something from the internet. It's brought to you by PCC Airfoils. Are you looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils at Eastlake, Mentor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus get a full benefit package, paid time off, and a signing bonus. Apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. So Baker Mayfield spoke this morning at his camp in Norman, Oklahoma.
Wow.
And Carrie Murdoch, who is the head of Sooner Scoop, which is the biggest Oklahoma fan site website out there, tweeted this out at 11:14 this morning, so 13 minutes ago. And I quote,
Carrie a male or female reporter?
He's a male.
Can we get him on? I'd love to hear everything Baker had to
I'll
say.
reach out to him right now, but
Okay.
this was his tweet, quote, I asked Baker Mayfield if there was any chance for a reconciliation with the Browns if they were without their quarterback this season. He said the Browns would have to reach out to start that process.
Wow.
Mayfield says he has since moved on, but does that mean the door is officially
Chase me,
closed? Is he
chase me.
reevaluating his whole situation now, knowing what could be coming from the NFL
Right.
on the Deshaun
I'd love
Watson
to talk
front?
to Carrie. I'd love to drill down.
I'm going to
a
reach
little
out
more
right
on
now.
that.
If I thought I was about to head to Seattle, I'd probably be rethinking everything too, and thinking look at all this stuff I've got here.
Yeah, I've got a lot of weapons.
At least he said the smart thing for once.
I know.
I give him credit
Yep.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm
Whether it's
surprised
true or
too.
not, it
I
was-
thought he would have
yeah.
said no.
Right. The
Because
door's
the
open.
thinking was he was the one spurned, so he was like done, out of
Right,
here,
right.
no chance. To me, that sounds like the bridge we thought that was napalm.
Yep.
Still has a couple of
You know what
strands
it sounds like if you go through a bad situation with a lady that you are favoring and dating or something like
Yeah.
that. She's like, it's over, and then she's like, I can't imagine what he could say that would win me back. That leaves the door open. That tells you the door's open.
Or this scenario where a friend of hers
Yes.
asks him, "Are you completely done with her?" Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to reach out to her, but if she reaches out to me, maybe there's a conversation to be had.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
there's a chance.
Yeah.
Jason?
It sounds like it's cracked. I can't.
He says
deny
no
that.
chance. He
There's
says
no chance.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
backing
happening.
off your no chance.
I don't think it's happening.
No,
but it did
The Browns
sound there.
clearly haven't reached out to him. Although I guess you don't know. He could just be saying that. But
Listen, if they could be sitting in their offices in Berea right now going, wait,
Yeah.
what did Baker say? Mm-hmm. Really?
How'd he say it? Was he
Yeah,
was he mad?
That's
was
why
he
we
nice?
need to,
was
we
he
need to
smiling?
talk to
Brian
Kerry.
Hartline.
And we also should ask Kerry if he decides to come on the program, see if he has video of that comment.
I'm DMing him right
So
now.
I'd love to play that so we
Would
could
be
read
awesome.
into whatever body language is going on.
I'd like
I'm
to
sure
see
there's
All
a
right.
We
video
got
somewhere.
Coach Hartline on with us
Yeah,
now.
Coach
Exactly.
Hartline. So
Without further ado,
Our first guest on today's show, he is the pride of Glen Oak High School, which is, of course, near Canton. Played 3 years at Ohio State before jumping to the NFL early. Led the Buckeyes to the 08 BCS title game. Had a great career with the Miami Dolphins. In fact, I don't know if he still has the record. I'll ask him here in a second. But at one point, he set the single-game receiving record, 250-some yards in a game. Had a great career with the Dolphins. And then he came to the Browns. Had a year here with the Browns before deciding he wanted to be a coach. So we welcome into the program Brian Hartline, who is now not only the wide receiver coach with The Ohio State University, but he's also the passing game coordinator. Brian, great to see you, man. Welcome to the program. Very good to see you.
Good to
It's
see
sunny
you guys,
where you
too.
are.
Good to see you.
It looks beautiful there,
Yeah.
man. You just hanging out in Columbus?
Fort Myers, man.
Oh,
No, Fort Myers.
yeah, I see what you're doing. Fort Myers is a beautiful area. Hey, congrats on being named the 2021 Wide Receiver Coach of the Year and on your promotion. We're watching what you're doing here from a distance, and I got to tell you, it's really impressive. How in the world are you landing all of these 5 stars and really turning OSU into WRU? I mean, the talent you brought in is incredible. How's it happening?
I don't know. I think that the big part is identification. I think we're relating to the right guys. I think we're speaking to like-minded individuals, and the things we're offering and the things that we're trying to get done, they want it to get done too. So I think the marriage, if you will, is pretty seamless from a identification standpoint, and we have what they want, and it works for both sides.
Brian, what are the things you look for in these guys? Obviously they're all talented players, otherwise they're not coming to Ohio State. But
Yep.
what are the other things you're looking at when you're recruiting these kids that make you feel like they're a good fit for Ohio State?
I think that, well, one, Ohio State's very close to my heart, and so I take that with a lot of responsibility. I know that the type of young man I want to bring in this room has to exemplify the things that we stand for. And frankly, there's a lot of some highly recruited kids that I've been blunt with that, hey, listen, I'm not recruiting you anymore. That's part of the process. I think, what am I looking for? I kind of commented on it a couple of weeks ago, but that mental makeup of the athlete, that is the competitiveness, the coachability, the bigger vision is so critical. There's so many guys that run this and run that and are this quick and this height and this weight. Like that's all good, but that mental makeup can really separate a player. Being around, the Stephon Diggs and the Barton Marshalls and the Jarvis Landrys and Mike Wallace and just all the guys I've gotten to know. I'm just looking for those kind of guys. And, I think we're doing a pretty fair job of that right now.
I want to add context to what we're talking about here, Brian. Ari Wasserman, who does a great job recruiting for us at The Athletic, said, since the 2019 class and including up to the 23 class, you have gotten a commitment from 14 top 100 receivers nationally. In the same span, the rest of the Big Ten has landed 2.
Wow.
2.
Wow.
The
And you got
Pied
14.
Piper of wide receiver recruits.
Clearly, you are one of the top recruiters. Go ahead.
So I don't know. The recruiting connotation just doesn't always sit well with me. And I try, and I understand it's part of what we do, but it's really wanting to identify and coach some of the best athletes that want to be great players. And I think that the relatability and frankly the honest conversations I probably give them is probably different than a lot of other coaches out there. I don't know that. I'm just assuming that. But I think again, I don't know. I mean, the numbers do get a little, crazy when you start breaking it down that way. But I just don't think about it that way. So But yeah, we've done a pretty darn good job, and again, we have over a 3.0 in our GPA in our receiver room too. So the quality of young men that's in our room is off the charts.
That's incredible.
And so I don't want that to be lost. Like, the athlete is really good in our room. So,
what's your favorite part of the job, Brian? What is it? Being on the field with the guys? Is it getting them to come? What is the favorite part for you?
He's contemplating or frozen.
Yeah, this is a good question.
He's really caught up on that.
Thinking extra hard.
Yeah.
That's what's going on there. I think he froze.
He froze. We'll get him back as soon as we can,
All right.
unfortunately. Hey, this is what happens when you're on vacation.
No, this
Sometimes
is what happened when Bull asks a tough question. He's really got to think about that
I think it's the second guest we've had freeze on a Bull question.
14.
I'm not sure if anyone
That stat
froze on.
is insane.
14
I think
top
that
100
stat more than
receivers.
any we've seen on Brian Hartline, and there are some really impressive numbers.
Yeah.
When you've got 14 top 100 receivers going to one school
since
in a conference.
2019.
And that's such a
19,
pivotal.
20, 21, 20, 5 classes.
That's insane.
5 classes.
Well, look at what happened at the draft. You had 3 consecutive picks in the top 12, top 10, that all committed to Ohio State. Now, one of them obviously transferred to Alabama in the process, but 3 straight guys in the top 10 or 11, whatever that was.
Can you just imagine seeing that number and being like a coach at Purdue and just being like, oh, third in 3 years.
The defensive backfield coach for any other Big Ten school.
Hey, guys, we got Coach
How
back.
do you
Let's-
handle that?
Let's bring him right back in. That's the thing of beauty with vacation, Coach. We understand it happens.
There you go.
sorry about that.
It's all right. So what is your favorite part, Coach? What is the favorite part of the job?
I think that I really enjoy building the room. I think putting it together and being able to hand select the young men that I get to coach is really, really awesome. I think, I see myself in the same seats that these guys were in. I see my son in those seats. So I just have a strong passion for the room. And I don't take that lightly. I think the guys know that. And, so I guess just the selection process and the maturation of these young men is just crazy. Chris Olave his first year was my first year, and Garrett Wilson's first year was my second year. So to see that whole process and then to see it conclude, even with Jameson, at the draft, it was very, very special.
Hey, Brian, you said a short while ago that, you've actually came out and said to some recruits, I'm not recruiting you anymore. What would lead you to make the decision that this guy isn't necessarily the right fit? And I know I'm not asking for specific players, but what would trigger that decision for you to tell a young man that we're not interested anymore?
Well, I think just the understanding that although it's a process for them, it's also a process for us. I think that, when you're going through the process, you're still trying to identify the guys that you're most certain. Again, sports is an odds game, right? I mean, when you run this fast, your odds of success are this. When you're this tall, your odds of success are this. And so we're just always playing those odds. I think that the more you get to know the young man, and you get to know his mental makeup and also the family, which is really important, you try and, focus on the odds of success. And at some point, you got to make that gut call on if they're a fit for you. You can't just say it all the time, but also not tell young men like, hey, we're going to go a different direction. So I think it's just the honesty that people really appreciate, and we try to do that. As much as they're honest, we're honest as well.
Coach, you've been a pretty proven evaluator of wide receiver talent. Can we get a quick evaluation of what you think of the Browns receiving core right now?
I love the David Bell pick. I think that
Nice.
player. I think that he's gonna do well. I haven't sat around and looked at enough. I think DPJ, right? He's really done a lot better once leaving that team up north. So I think that I think that again, they're trying to put it together. I think obviously it's well documented on everything else going on out there, but from the receiving core standpoint, losing Jarvis does not help, no matter what anybody wants to say. So we'll see. But I like the David Bell pickup for sure.
Yeah, that's great to hear, actually, that he likes Bell because he's seen him up close and he knows what he can do.
Hey, you mentioned Jarvis and you mentioned Chris Olave. They're going to play together, of course, with the Saints. Another former Buckeye, Michael Thomas, is there as well. How do you like that for your guy, fitting in with two veteran wide receivers that could probably teach him a lot?
Yeah, awesome. It's so surreal. I mean, I remember, I'm trying to think here now, 2011 or 12 when Jarvis came to Miami, and and then kind of working together and getting to know him and getting pretty close. And now full circle, him being with Chris, just family. We had Jarvis on a Zoom for all the receivers back in COVID in 2020. So just all the kind of connections there is pretty cool. And I know Mike's feeling a lot better. He's excited to get back. He's taking Chris under his wing as well. So he's got a great group down there. Just kind of see the maturation of Jameson and Winston, see how he does at the quarterback position will be critical. But he's got a lot of weapons around him, that's for sure.
Yeah, especially at wide receiver. Hey, so you mentioned the team up north. I love that you still don't say the word Michigan. That's fantastic. I'm sorry that I just said it.
Come on, man.
I know. I feel bad doing it, especially in front of Brian. We had Leroy Horde on, who is obviously an alum of the school up north, played for years here with the Browns, and hosts a radio show down in South Florida. And he was on a couple of weeks ago, and he told a story about when he first had you on his program, about the conversation that unfolded. Let's play that, and then we'll get your reaction to it on the backside.
So we interviewed him, and, me and my bravado, I'm going to talk trash if I see a Buckeye. I have to, right? I say, so, they give out these little gold pants when they beat Michigan.
Yeah, I saw you guys just trying to rip that off.
I said, hey, Hartline, I was 3-1 against the Buckeyes. What were you against the Wolverines? He say 4-0.
Yeah,
I
he
said,
was.
well, I'll shut the hell up right now. And that was it.
That's the best way to shut somebody down right there, 4-0.
Yeah, I think that holds a special place in my heart, that game. And again, I don't want to really talk about it because I'm still sick, but I think that everything happens for a reason. And the refocus on that game is very apparent. And I think that, in this light, our guys fully remember now what that game's about. I mean, to ask these young men to be honest about, what that rivalry means. Like, I know we hate the team up north, and we have, it's a lifestyle, not a game, and we live at 365. But, Jackson Smith-Njigba from Texas does not fully understand, and C.J. Stroud does not. They just didn't. I think everyone fully understands now. And we're excited for that game. I know we don't want to rush the whole season, but it's in our crosshairs every day.
Man, I love to hear that.
You mentioned, unrelated to really kind of, but for a minute, but you mentioned Jackson Smith-Njigba, and his brother is a professional baseball player who got called up to the big leagues by the Pirates about a month ago. He played a couple of games, and then he got hurt. But that's pretty amazing that two young guys, great athletes, one will soon be a professional football player, and one is a professional baseball player. Pretty amazing bloodlines there in his family, huh?
Yeah, the bloodlines is real. I mean, if everyone pays attention to sports now, I mean, whether you're looking at the Bosa brothers or you're looking at Jackson Smith, I mean, it doesn't really matter. That lineage is real. So anytime you're evaluating talent, I promise you something. Marvin Harrison Jr., that bloodline is real. So,
well, hell, your brother played in the NFL at quarterback for a while, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a cup of coffee, and he's down at Auburn now. He's coaching down there, so he's in the business. But it's pretty cool. And Cannon's a great dude, Jackson's brother, and we wish him nothing but the best. So.
Brian, you obviously had a highly successful NFL career. You made a lot of money, and now you're one of the hottest coaching candidates in college football. How high do you want to go? Do you have aspirations of being a head coach? That's such a different animal than the world you're in right now. Are you good where you're at, or do you want to be a head coach one day?
Well, I'm very good at where I'm at, but I would say that I'm a competitor, and I don't know what the path holds, but I'm definitely not rushing into any kind of path. I love my room. Again, every time I think about it, my wife and I, we can't imagine going in there and telling the room that we're not going to be here anymore. So that's a big ask. I do want to be a head coach. I don't know, where and how and all that. I know I need to win. I know I'm never going to go anywhere where I can't win. If I can't win the conference, I probably won't go there. So if I can't go chase a Super Bowl ring, I know every team can, but you know what I mean. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to see the vision, and that's really, really, really important to me. So I love Ohio State. I love Coach Day. I love, Columbus. It's home. My family's from there. So a lot of variables. It's not just as cut and dry for maybe a lot of coaches that are out there.
I hate this conversation, but it's it's coming.
Oh, sure.
Because
if he wants it, it's out there. It's going to be out there.
I'm wondering, Brian, so as a coach, you've established this collegiate record of being able to recruit and also develop talent. I know I talked with you on the phone over the weekend, and you wanted to stress that your development is just as important as the recruitment itself.
Really more important.
And sometimes that's overlooked, especially everybody's saying, well, he's getting all this great talent, but it's also, he wanted to stress the development. But I'm thinking too, Brian, that you had such an established career as an NFL player. Has there been interest, because I know there's been interest on the collegiate level, have you heard from NFL teams about perhaps becoming a receivers coach or ultimately a coordinator and then a head coach? And is that an ambition that you might have?
So, frankly, I probably get 3 to 4 a year of whether I want to go up there or not.
Wow. So, from the NFL?
Again, yes. And I would say that transition is very relationship-based. Like, I have to have a relationship with you. If not, that's a hairy business up there. And frankly, once you go up there, it's very volatile, right? I mean, I've been up there. So there's a lot of variables without to jump into it and fully lift up my skirt. But I think that, relationships are very, very important. The vision's got to be important. Personnel's important. What I love about college, I just talked about it. Like, I love being able to go out there and assess the talent and select, and I want to be able to have a major say in that as well if I go to the NFL. I think that's really, really important. So, going through the weeds, man, just trying to figure it all out. But we're very, very blessed, and we're in no rush to run anywhere. So,
well, Buckeye fans love that.
Brian, Tyvis Powell does the show with us every Wednesday, and obviously, I worked with Dustin Fox for a long time. And we had Maurice Claret in studio with us. And what they all have been saying, from guys who are not in the program like you are right now, is we got to get the defense, the silver bullets. We need that back. We need to get it back. Are you confident in the defense of being even better this season?
Yes. I would say that, Coach Knowles and his staff, very impressed, honestly. I mean, when it comes down to it, first of all, their work ethic, not to take away from anyone previously, it's just work ethic's off the chart, vision's off the chart, smart. The whole staff's smart. They talk it. It's just we felt them all spring, and that's a pretty good sign. When they do a lot of really good things and they're honing what they want to get done, and the demand of the players to learn a full new system and to communicate it, and it's just been really impressive. I'm excited to see these guys continue to launch through summer and into fall camp, but their presence has absolutely been felt, and it happened pretty darn quick.
Nice. You talked about the development of the guys that you brought in. One of the most impressive things from last season to me was the fact that before the biggest game of the season, before the Rose Bowl against Utah, you lose your 2 best guys. They say that they're going to opt out of the bowl game and they're going to start preparing for the NFL draft. And a lot of folks, I think, were expecting the Ohio State offense to take a major step back because you're losing 2 critical pieces. Meantime, you've got these guys come out of the weeds and step up and step out onto a big main stage. That had to be a major point of pride for you, knowing that these guys were ready, game ready all along, and you plug them in and the offense doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just goes to, shows credit for Mick Marotti and his staff and our process at which we develop these guys. And we're not in a rush, to bring these guys necessarily to the fire. I think that, I don't know if you guys have seen King Richard, that great movie with Venus and Serena. And I'm not King Richard, but I'm just saying, we don't have to rush into things just for satisfaction. I mean, there's a point at which, we just want to make sure you're ready. And when you're ready, don't worry. It's all going to take care of itself. So the development of Mick and Marotti and his staff, the development of the offensive staff, and the trust that the players give to us or we earn, it's just a great blend there. And again, for them to show up and do what they did, no one was surprised. Frankly, going into that game, we were excited. I couldn't wait to watch some of these guys work. and now we're going to see it for a full season this year. So, it's just really exciting. Again, I can't compliment the parents and how great the young men are, because without that, it's really, really difficult to get it done. But their work ethic's off the charts, and we have a special group, and it's building. And I think that when young men and recruits come in and they speak with our guys and they show them the path and they calm down and look at,
Don't do this to us right now, Coach. Come on.
You lost him again.
Coach. Come on, Coach.
Lost him again. His Wi-Fi needs an upgrade at Fort Myers.
Exactly.
I'm not sure if he's
got to go
AOL
start making that NFL money. He needs to get a new coaching gig so he can get better at, so he can actually get some decent Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. We want to get him back because we've got a couple more minutes left with him, and you wanted to play a game with him as we said goodbye.
I want to pitch something,
which I think is funny.
He came back after about 90 seconds last time when it froze.
Okay.
So he knows he was mid-answer. He knows he's going to come back. So let's just
I'm curious.
filibuster for a second.
I'm curious. I want to ask him one more question I have for him.
We'll do one and then your game.
I know Mike.
He's back. We got him back.
Okay.
Coach, we got you. Don't worry. Don't worry.
I know Mike, you wanted me to ask him about Ryan Day's beard, but Brian, from a fan's perspective, we're excited about you guys playing Notre Dame to start the season. But, I don't know. Do you guys get when you play an interesting opponent, do you care? Would you rather play a team that would be less of a challenge maybe? I don't know. I think you guys kick it in his ass, but you want to play the good teams, right?
Give it all to us, man. We cannot wait for game 1, September 3rd, and at night, and against my boy Laurinaitis and Marcus Freeman. I cannot wait for that one. And I think that, at the end of the day, the guys feel the same way. I mean, we were just ecstatic that it was a night game, scheduled night game, and so no. We want all the smoke, as they say.
Coach, be nuts there.
Coach, we have an almost exclusively lunatic Browns fan base, and they'll want to know about your year in Cleveland. Do you have a positive memory, something you want to share from your time in Cleveland that year?
I really enjoyed playing with Andrew Hawk. That guy is awesome. Josh McCown, I have great memories being up there and being home. Awesome time there, but obviously the people is what made that stop very special.
We had Joe Juravicius on, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and he told a story about driving to the game, a home game one week, and he drove by the Muni lot, and he saw guys in the Muni lot wearing his jersey, and he said he was actually moved to tears when he saw that. Did you have a moment like that where you sort of had to pinch yourself and say, wow, I'm playing in my backyard as a professional?
To fully disclose, I was not a Browns fan.
I was afraid you were going to say that.
I didn't necessarily have that. Yeah, so
just don't tell us you were a Steelers fan.
That may have hit me if it was a Cowboys jersey, because I was a Cowboys fan growing up.
Okay,
but,
appreciate your candor.
I would say that my first experience was in college. I mean, it wasn't our jersy back then, but the reason why number 9 was on the stands was because so that was pretty cool. But down in Miami was pretty cool and very surreal. It really is a blessing. I know guys will say it all the time, but the people you meet, the experience you get, it's just it's pretty darn cool.
All right, McNuggets, our producer, has a game he wants to play with you. So if it sucks, it's all his fault.
Yep.
If it's good, we planned it and just let him do it. So
that's how we roll.
Yeah.
McNuggets, what do you got?
Hey, Coach, how you doing? Thanks for coming on today. Is it cool if I call you Coach?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, Coach, one of my favorite trends in college athletics is when a coach lands a recruit and they have a certain tweet to indicate they may have got a commitment. So let's take a couple of the famous ones, Steve. Coach O famously was, "Hold that tiger." My accent's terrible. And
terrible
then,
accent.
Scott Drew had "Sick'em." So I was going through, Coach, as an elite recruiter like yourself, I wanted to see what yours was. So, Steve, let's take the next video. It's just a hands praying emoji. So, with all due respect, Coach, I think you're a great recruiter, but I think we could do a little better. So I'm going to present you with 5 ideas here that I hope maybe we can incorporate in. I know you're not going to like all of these, or you definitely, some of them may not be appropriate.
Stop qualifying it already.
But, I think if you like one, maybe we can incorporate it and, a little throwback and see if it works. So you ready to see? I got 5 to present to you. You ready?
I'm very interested to see what you got here.
I have 5 I made graphics for. I have 2 more that may be a little too inappropriate. We'll see if you like any of the 5. If not, we'll get to the next 2.
I'm rooting for the
best
inappropriate.
ones. Come on.
All right, so number 1, Steve, let's take it. How about hashtag Buck Yeah?
All right.
Initial thoughts, Coach?
I see what you did there.
Okay. Let's go to the next one.
Is there
Steve.
any chance you use that, though, Brian?
There's no chance.
No. I know.
Okay. Number 2, what if hashtag Nuck if you bucks?
That's horrible.
What?
What does that mean?
It's a rap lyric.
Don't be
Oh, I
dying
see.
on me.
Thank you. We're 60 years old.
Yeah, you got to go easy on
We're a
us.
bunch of old white dudes. What do we know?
Okay.
Next one.
Wait, hold on. Did Coach freeze? Was this so bad that he froze?
He
Did I
probably
pull
hung
it
up.
off?
He probably hung
He's had
up.
enough of you.
He hung up.
Yeah, that's how we all feel. He represents all of
The best ones
us.
are coming. The best ones are coming. We got to give Coach 1 second. What do you guys think so far? Buck yeah?
I like
First
Buck
one's
Yeah.
good.
Buck
Yeah.
yeah was funny.
The first one was good. Second one terrible.
He's back.
But I don't know that he can use Buck
guys.
Yeah.
I apologize.
That's
all
okay.
right.
That's okay.
Okay.
Buck Yeah's good, but maybe more for a T-shirt. I don't know if I can put that on.
That's true.
On social
All right, well, then
media.
these next ones, we'll see
right.
how you feel, Coach. Steve, let's take number 3.
Okay.
How about just hashtag D's?
I get it.
Oh my God! What are you doing here?
That's great.
He's laughing. That means it's working. All right, 2 more, Coach.
Inappropriate.
Let's take the next one, Steve. How about hashtag Buck Naked?
That's my least favorite so far.
And here's,
All right.
Coach, here's the winner. This one I actually think you will like and we could use. And if you do, I would like a shout out. But how about Hartline Bling? A little shout out to Drake with the
pretty
Hotline
Another
Bling.
lyric.
Drake, Hotline Bling. Yeah, I know. It's not bad. People would ask me that question. Are they saying your name on there? I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure.
Well, those are my 5,
I'll
Coach.
tell you, we have some fun with that stuff, with the commitment stuff. But I'm not gonna lie. I felt like it's been so good. I just want to be very appreciative. Just like
That's right.
throw up the praying emoji and just say go Bucks. Keep the humble approach and roll from there.
That's it. It's like Nick Chubb had just given the ball to the referee. It's really simple.
Yeah,
Wait,
act
what
like
are
you
the
did
two
there.
inappropriate
It's really
ones?
Those were them.
it's great to celebrate it. It's really easy to celebrate when you don't do it too often. But when you kind of do it all the time, it's just
That's right.
So I'm wondering, Brian, do you have one of those 5 that is your favorite? Not that you're going to use it, but
I mean, Buck yeah is pretty good. I kind of
Buck yeah is good.
That.
I like that. That's good.
I'm definitely not using D's. You know?
God, I
D's
wish
ain't
you
gonna
would,
make it.
though.
Oh my God.
I'm telling you, your status would automatically elevate. I mean, it would be.
You'd be getting 7 or 8 offers from the NFL every year then.
I could just see it. Like he's what?
Yeah.
Coach, I'll text you the 2 that I don't want to say on air, just so you could tell
I'm
me
sure
I'm
he's
the worst
dying to see
ever.
them.
But
Come on.
Yeah, what are the 2 that you can't say on air?
Oh my God.
We're not even on air. We're on the internet. You say whatever you want.
Coach, these are not actual suggestions. These are just. Well, first off, I got to give shout out. Taylor Travis, David Waxman, Liam Musgrave helped me create some of these.
I knew
This
you
is
didn't
not
come up
from
with
me.
all those on your own.
No. I mean, should I just say the last 2?
Yes.
Just say it.
Yeah, I think you should.
Say
Coach,
it.
I did not officially suggest this.
Spit it out.
But how about hashtag Buck Me Harder?
Okay.
Harder.
I told you it
wouldn't-
was
I wouldn't-
inappropriate. Y'all made me
Why
say
would
it.
he
I know,
send
but-
that?
Why would I want to say that?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
These why they didn't make the list.
You know
I'm
what?
saying these were the suggestions.
I'm going to leave it up to Brian as to whether or not you say the last one.
Oh,
I'm actually
Brian,
not.
do you want to hear
no,
that?
no.
Nope, nope, nope.
Wait,
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, let's hear it.
hey, he wants to hear
We're
it.
this far in. You can't
That's true.
You can't, you
Pot
can't get
committed.
wet twice.
We are
Don't
pot
be a quitter.
committed.
Don't
Yeah.
be a quitter.
I mean, I'm already going to
quitter.
be canceled, but, Buckeyes nuts, hashtag. I'm not, no, Coach, I'll text you on the side. I'm not saying this one on there.
He wimped out.
I'm not
Oh
saying this
my
one on
God.
All right.
Thanks, Brian. We appreciate it.
Brian, you were
Thanks for
awesome,
coming on.
man.
Thank you, Coach.
Hey, go get him
Yep.
this year, and
Yeah, I
if
appreciate
you
it,
happen
guys.
to put up triple digits on one of your
Oh,
opponents
they're
this year,
gonna
I think that'd be okay.
smoke them in that game.
It'd be okay.
Oh.
I think, yeah, maybe. I'm excited for it. Like I said, I mean, it's nothing against the guys. It's a refocusing that happened, and we're excited for it. So,
I love it. I love it. Put in that work, and we'll see it. We'll see you against Notre Dame in the fall.
Yep.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks,
yes,
Coach.
Sir. Thanks, guys.
Brian
Hashtag Buck, let's go.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Wonderful job.
Man, when he talked about getting those guys focused, like they don't know what this rivalry means, man, they are going to come out with their everything on fire.
It's a rivalry
in that
again.
game.
It's a rivalry again. It was just silly for a long time. It wasn't fun.
When one team wins too many times in a row, it's not a rivalry.
No, that's right.
So I love that he's, look, it's some of these kids from Texas or California or whatever. They don't know what that game means.
They were like 11 the last time that they lost.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. Until recently, the Steelers-Browns didn't feel like much of a rivalry.
It wasn't. No, I mean.
And now it feels like it's getting picked up again.
Both teams have to be good for it to be meaningful.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, McNuggets. You're
welcome.
That's the best. I can't wait until we hear what. Is it okay to say it now that he's gone?
No, I'll tell you all off the air.
Steve
Becker texted me and said, good call on not saying the last one. If you have to ask yourself, probably better safe than sorry.
That is a very good
No. Look. Right here. Ready, fire, aim, baby. Just shoot.
That leads right into what I was going to say. So we're going to.
You have another job.
Ready, fire, aim.
You know what, though? Our goal was to make these guests laugh.
No,
and
absolutely.
I do think Coach Hartline, if he texts you and says, I'm never talking to McNuggets again, I will take that L and I'll walk
I'm sure
home,
he had fun with
you
it.
did nothing wrong. You did great, Michael. Nice work,
Thank you,
young
Michael.
man.
No, just got a text from him. It's all good. He enjoyed it. And I told him over the weekend, you'll have fun. I promise that you'll laugh. And he did, and he enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the list. I thought the list was great.
I wimped out on asking him about Mr. Hero. I didn't want to insult him.
Listen, you know what? It's a shame you didn't, because I told him you were going to,
I know.
and he loved it. He loved the idea.
It seemed kind of trivial at the time, He was being inspirational about coaching and whatnot, and I was going to be like, what do you think about those hot buttered hoagies you used to push? I didn't feel like it just didn't feel organic. And neither
he'll
does
come
Mr.
back
Hero,
on
quite
hopefully
frankly, but I
during
eat
the
it
season,
anyways.
Jay. Hopefully he had enough fun that we can get him back
Yeah,
at
we'll
least
get
once
him
or
back.
twice
We'll
during the year.
We'll ask all
And
your
we'll save that
hard-hitting
question
Mr. Hero
for
waffle
the
fry
season.
questions
Right.
next time we
Well,
get back on.
You can add Mr. Hero to Burger King and all the other sponsors.
Yeah, that we won't be getting.
I love Mr. Hero.
Mr. Hero.
Why is it wet? Fair question. Why is it wet? I'll eat it. I'll eat it right
Wasn't
now.
there a Mr. Hero jinx that everybody that did Mr. Hero commercials went down the tubes?
It's debatable.
Brian Hoyer.
Anderson Varejao. I mean, that was, I forget who else. There were
Brian
some other
Hoyer,
ones.
I think.
Brian Hoyer,
Well,
definitely.
I just texted him, Mike, sorry he didn't ask you about Mr. Hero. And I won't say what he wrote, but he's disappointed that you didn't.
Well, we'll get him next time.
And he said, need to do it again then.
That's
Awesome.
great.
There you go.
We'll
Good.
get him on.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right,
and-
I will build up the strength to tell him my last suggestion next time. I'll clear it with all the Tegna
Yeah.
lawyers and stuff to make sure legally I can say
yeah,
that.
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
What was your guys' favorite, real quick, of the 6 I suggested?
D's. No question. D's.
D's.
Yeah.
I agree.
No question.
The
D's.
first one. What was it again? The first one?
Buck, yeah.
I did like Buck, yeah.
Buck,
but I
yeah,
like-
is good too.
But
Buck, yeah, and D's were the best.
But Buck, yeah, he could actually use.
He could use that.
He could use that
He
one.
could use that. It could be a T-shirt too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Get on that. Copyright that.
UCSS is coming out with swag. Maybe our first Ohio State gear is either hashtag just D's.
No, it just
or
has
hashtag
a
yeah.
Buckeye on it and says D's underneath it.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean,
it may exist already.
listen,
it's so
it
brilliant.
if it doesn't,
if
it
no one
should.
thought of that yet, in like all the
It's
all of
inappropriate.
that-
especially in the
Yeah.
T-shirt capital of the universe.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like,
Is
yeah.
Cleveland the T-shirt capital of the universe?
Oh,
Oh,
let me
yeah.
tell you something.
Yeah.
You haven't figured that out yet?
Once the steel mills moved out, we became a T-shirt and microbrew based economy. Pretty much.
I tried explaining that when we launched The Athletic. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, T-shirts are huge, and they couldn't grasp the concept.
No, most people outside of Cleveland can't.
There is something mildly desperate about it. I don't mind it because nobody used to be proud of living in Cleveland at all, but it is a little weird. Like, you don't see a bunch of New Yorkers walking around and says, like, New York, I like it here. I do. But Cleveland, we're all just like, it's fine, right?
We've
like
got
it.
signs
It's
all
here.
over our
Look,
city reminding people where
they are and that they like it. It's a little thirsty. We all seem a little thirsty walking around.
It is very thirsty.
All right, well, let's do a little good bet,
Good
bad
bet,
bet,
bad
real
bet.
quick while we have.
Before
this is
we go to that, have you done a feature yet on the T-shirts?
I haven't. No, we should.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah,
I'm going to write that down on my clipboard.
Okay, do that because I think it would be fantastic. Good bet, bad bet?
Yeah, let's do good bet, bad bet. Steve, let's pull up the standings. We are still tied after a 1-2 day for both G and Adam the Bull.
I made a
Jay,
move, though.
2-1, coming up on.
I made a move.
Making some ground there. And also, Brad Sellers falling below 500 for the first time for anyone, really. The first person under 50%. So, Brad, you got to step it up. The mayor's back tomorrow.
Did G send his picks?
Jason is picking 4G today.
4G,
so,
okay.
Jason's picks count for Mr. Bush.
Sorry, Garrett.
So let's get to the first one. Guardians
Ready,
getting
fire,
a 1.5 again
That's right.
today against the Twins in Game 1. The only one going against the grain is Jason, a.k.a. G. Bush. Jason, the floor is yours.
I'm just a negative person. I don't know what you want me to tell you. I'm a negative person.
And he's playing with G's money.
And I'm playing with G's money.
why not?
And I don't gamble on, I've never gambled on sports, so I don't know what I'm doing here. But I didn't like the matchup. Smeltzer's been pitching well. Always pitches well against Cleveland. Plesac has not pitched well against
He's a coin
Minnesota.
toss.
He is, but a bit of a coin flip. So, yeah, I do think they're going to pull out of this soon, but just not in Game 1.
I hope so, because they're in a nosedive.
Big time.
I mean, yesterday was.
yeah,
it's
one
rough.
engine is out and the other one's on fire right now.
It's what
And
we
the
all
parachutes are broken.
it is what we all feared during this homestand, unfortunately. Like, it's
I
The
was
long season,
optimistic,
there's ups and
man.
downs.
I know.
But
There's
it's been
still
a rough
4 to
start.
go with the Twins.
Yeah.
And if you take 3 of 4,
Yeah.
but the problem is that you only pick up a game now.
And
if
the
you take 3
pitching
of 4.
is really struggled lately. The starting pitching, and McKenzie in particular, his last 2 starts has been awful, and now he's going to face the Yankees the next time
I'm
out.
telling you, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility they get a pitcher at the trade deadline. I know that goes against what they've done in the past, but
Yeah.
I just
Spending
don't think
money,
you can. No, normally if they're going to get something at the deadline, it's a bat. Usually,
Yeah.
normally they can just churn out their own homegrown
I
pitching.
mean,
but-
Luis Castillo or Tyler Malley from Cincinnati
Yeah.
are possibilities.
They do have a doubleheader today, and I like
Yeah.
the second matchup better.
Pilkington.
Yeah, because Pilkington.
The
I think
Pilk!
and I think the Twins called up somebody from the minor leagues to get the start.
I like
Both
that.
teams did,
too.
because Pilkington had been down.
He's their 26th
Yeah,
man.
but I mean, at least Pilkington. I don't know this guy from the
Yeah.
Twins how much big league experience he
I
has.
don't
but
know.
I like
I didn't
Pilkington
see who
a
it
lot.
was. Who was
I
it?
didn't recognize the name. They called him up just for today's second game.
Oh, Windler?
Yeah,
he had been up already earlier in the year.
I don't remember him doing
Yeah,
anything.
no, he's a young pitcher.
What's
ahead.
the next one?
The second bet, over 9.5 runs in said Game 2 between the Guardians Twins.
Yeah, I mean, you got 2 pitchers getting called up from the minors, not a lot of experience. Pilkington didn't pitch well the last time. I'm expecting a lot of runs today in both games.
Yeah,
I think
am
the
too.
Guardians' bats will get going finally.
They
I
better.
I hope you're right. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been 9 runs now over their last 5 games.
Jose's thumb ain't right.
I
Do we
don't think it
agree
is
on that?
either. When he got hit on the hand the other day, I know it's not the thumb, but I'm wondering. Look, when you take one off the hand, a fastball,
Concerned,
90
but he's
plus.
a quick healer, so
Let's hope he's okay.
Wolverine.
And what's the last one?
This is the best one. It's a 10-pointer. Will I catch a foul ball at tonight's game? I'm going to the second game
Wait
of
a
the
minute.
doubleheader.
You put me down for good bet.
Me too.
Well, Bull was the only. No, Anthony, man.
Anthony.
screwed up.
Okay.
Did I send it? Hold on. Let me double check. Did I send it wrong or did Anthony read
Don't
it
you
wrong?
remember what I said? I didn't just say bad bet.
No, you said bad. Yeah, Anthony, man, killing us.
All right, well, here's the thing. It's a no-brainer to pick good bet on this because even though it's unlikely, I get 10 wins if he wins.
But it counts as a loss if you
so
don't.
whatever, you get losses all the time.
Right.
It's one loss.
Hey, I agree. I put it down as good bet. I love that you showed him to shame him.
Yeah,
So-
Anthony. Put Anthony back up there. Put Anthony back up
Just
there.
look at him.
Anthony,
on.
look, bro. Look into the camera.
Look
Anthony,
at
look
us.
at the camera.
Look into the camera. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You've done an unbelievable job for us. Okay, so you messed up a graphic last Friday. Okay, so you messed up a graphic today. It happens.
How
It
do you
happens.
stay mad at that face?
How can you get
How
mad
can
at
you
Anthony?
stay mad at
He's
that
doing the
face?
best
And
he
he couldn't
can.
find us any water today.
Yep. And he's dressed.
Right.
And he's dressed like the Unabomber for some
What is
reason.
that? Is that a USF?
Vegas
UCS.
Golden Knights.
Okay, yeah. Wow, you're
But
going deep.
wait a
with
minute.
that
I had a lot of questions about this. I just couldn't be bothered to actually get into it because I didn't care enough.
Yeah,
But
it was very early.
Number
one.
one,
It's G. Bush's money.
yeah, right. I don't care. Number one, where are you sitting? Number two, catch it means you have to catch it.
That's it.
You can't
Yes.
pick it up off the
Listen, I
ground.
played center
You
field
have
for
to
2
catch
years
it.
in elementary school.
All right, but there's
No way.
nobody at the game,
Not
so you
catching
can't
No,
just
he
wander
can catch
over
it
and
on
pick
a
it up.
bounce.
I'm
No.
sitting in
No,
the
he's gotta
chair.
catch
it. Catch it means catch
I have
it.
to catch
Catching
it. in the air.
Catch it in the air.
It can't land 3 sections over. I scurry over and get. Does
right.
not count.
Mike,
does not count.
if you have the opportunity, I'm expecting you to knock people over no matter what.
Take it from a child if you have to.
Absolutely. Hey, Brianna's
Take it from a
coming
child.
to the game with us.
He said he would throw Brianna out of the box.
Out the box
to catch
to give
a
Bull
foul
10
ball.
wins. That's the dedication I have to my
very
people.
gallant.
Thank you.
Very
Bree,
gallant.
but you know what, Bull? This is a win for you. This is for you.
Yes.
Bree, I'm sorry.
Head on a
I'm
swivel,
sorry
Bree.
about
Head
that.
on a swivel.
including the girl you're going with. If you got to knock her out of the way, knock her out of the way.
No, the girl that he's going
girl
with will
counts.
knock him out of the way.
That's true. She'll probably kick
Yeah.
your
But
ass.
that doesn't count either. You said you have to catch it. I don't care if she catches it. It doesn't count.
You have to catch it.
You have to
She's got
catch
really
it.
long arms, though.
Mike, I'm
She's not
expecting
catching
you to
before.
lie and say you caught a foul
Yeah,
ball
two things.
either way.
So Bull and I are saying you will catch it.
Yes.
You two are saying that
No
you
chance.
won't.
And I want
way.
video evidence
Just
if
to be
you
clear.
do.
Because
Yeah.
we get big scores if this happens.
Big
somehow.
scores.
So
You
I
get
hope.
massive scores if
I hope it happens. One more foul ball story, real quick. Municipal Stadium, probably late 80s, I would guess. I'm sitting next to my dad in an empty stadium, of course, because it's the late 80s and it's Cleveland Indians.
Everybody got a foul ball then.
Exactly, except me, because I'm sitting here. My dad's sitting where you are. My dad has 2 beers in the cup holders. 2 beers. I'm a child, so I don't have one yet. But he's got 2 beers in the cup holders. A foul ball hits up off a deck. Bounces, and it can bounce forever because there's nobody there. So it's just rolling and rolling. I can't get over my dad. He's like, sit up! And it rolls right next to him. Some kid grabs it and runs off with it. And I go, Dad, it was a foul ball. He goes, I would have spilled my beer. And I said, it's a foul ball. He goes, can't drink a foul ball. Swear to you. Can't drink a foul ball.
God.
It's still a famous line in my family. Like him saying, can't drink a foul ball.
That's awesome.
It should be.
And by the way, I hate to be that guy, but now I want to tell a foul ball story.
Please.
Go ahead. I'm at Shea Stadium, which is not empty. It was not empty. This is the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Strawberry,
Yeah, they had a good team. So this is late 80s. I was like 17 or 18, something like that. We are sitting in the first row of the upper deck, right behind home plate. Wow. So just over the net, right? And foul ball comes straight back. I am there. I'm leaning over a little bit. Ball comes right to me, hits me in the hands, boom, pops out. I got booed by the entire stadium.
Did you have a glove on or not?
No.
Did it stick with you, that
Boom.
boo?
I deserved it.
Okay, but did it hurt?
No, I did. No, I felt
Okay,
like
good.
it was well deserved.
It was
I
part
should've
of
caught the
baseball.
ball.
Part of baseball.
Yes.
Honored to be
I
part
needed
of
to catch that ball.
Honored to be a part of the noble tradition of getting booed for
Yes.
missing a foul
I got
ball.
booed by like 40,000 people.
That's who can say that? Who can say that? Steve Bartman.
That's right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
Lucky
you and
he didn't
Steve
get
are
killed.
like separated at
Yeah,
birth.
right.
He had to go into hiding. I love that. That's what jerks.
Listen,
sports fans
screwed his
are.
life up to this day.
Oh my God.
Like he can't. I think he's got a different name.
Yeah.
He's like living his.
They tried to bring him back in 2016.
Yeah, it didn't
Everybody's still like, boo, we're still mad, boo. He's got his kids with him. They'll kill you if we see you in the parking
First of
lot.
all, the guy went to the game by himself and was listening to it
Cool dude.
on headphones.
Cool
I
dude.
don't think Moises Alou's reaction led to that.
Yeah, I think it
no
did
doubt.
too because he was,
Yes, he
throwing
went
a
nuts.
tantrum right
Yes.
there. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
They had to escort him out of the stadium. Remember with
There was
police
a great.
escort.
ESPN did a great documentary.
Oh, I know they did. Yeah,
Dusty Baker blew it.
Yeah.
He should have. I don't know.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Doesn't matter. Go
So
ahead.
at least for you,
Yeah.
it was 3 minutes of hell and then it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I deserved it though.
All right.
I had to.
God, I'd pay to get video of that. Do you know? You have no idea what day that was.
No clue.
Gosh.
By the way, there was another day where my buddy, the Mets used to have this banner day where you made your own banner and then you got to walk around the
they used to
field.
do that at Municipal
They do
Stadium
that?
too.
Mhm.
for the
Yeah,
Indians.
and
Sounds
my
risky.
friend made a banner and we walked the outfield at Shea Stadium.
Do they have to
That was
approve
cool.
the banners to make sure they're not
I don't remember.
vulgar
I think
or-
I was
Mike,
like
back
15.
then, I don't think anybody
Nobody
thought
cared.
to do
Yeah.
what they would do
there were
today.
there are no camera phones
Different
anyways,
time.
so it's
Yeah.
just like, well.
Hit one here was the most provocative
Yeah.
with a big bullseye on.
All right, McNuggets, we got to do this, Cavs.
Let's switch a little Cavs. We have we're gonna run through a couple of these things quick. Let's start with the proposed trade by CBS, then let's get to Jason.
Yeah, because we have
info on
Josina
the Cavs
Anderson
draft
coming up at
process.
12:30, and she's
And
going
we
to
got to do top 5 too. So
Okay, so let's start with the trade. Yesterday on CBS, their digital platform, Avery Johnson, who coached Collin Sexton at Alabama in college, came on, and basically the question to Avery was, and they do this with all the teams, but for this segment, it was the trade the Sixers need to make this offseason. And he was all in on they need to get Collin Sexton. But in his answer, he said something that was, to me, very telling. He said that Collin is done in Cleveland. He was definitive about it.
Wow.
He said that Garland's going to get the extension and that Collin's time in Cleveland is done. And what jumped out of that answer, to me, is he has a great relationship with Collin, and I would think that they're talking. And he was just so definitive when he said it. I was kind of taken back by it. He said Collin's time in Cleveland is done. So it got us to thinking, okay, 76ers. Who from the 76ers would you want in return for Collin Sexton?
I mean, Tobias Harris?
That's exactly
right.
That's the guy.
Yeah, first of all,
that's it.
I don't love their roster. I don't think it's a good match. But if we are drilling this down to it has to be Philly, then I would agree it's Tobias Harris.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know who else on there I'd want.
Joel Embiid for Chetty, straight up.
Okay, I would do that.
Tobias can play a little bit. He's a good
player.
And I think Philly would be open to moving him. He is a good player.
What
He's
do
got
they
some
gain
length.
from that? Why would they want to make that swap?
I think he can play the 3 a little bit better than Lauri Markkanen, who they're really trying to shoehorn into that spot. I think Tobias he's still not a natural 3, but I think he's a little bit better of a fit there. So that's really what you're doing is you're trying to unlog the jam you have. Is that?
By the way, when Tobias Harris,
By the way,
when Tobias Harris was in high school and I was working part-time in New York, he used to call me overnights on the radio station.
That's why you want him.
Well,
you want to reunite.
give him a call and see if
he
he
would
wants
tell
to come
me
to
about
Cleveland.
his like high school basketball.
Really?
No
That's
kidding.
interesting.
The reality is, when he went to the NBA, I had totally forgotten this, and some guy who had been producing for me was like, Bull, don't you remember Tobias Harris used to call you and tell you about his basketball in Long Island?
When he was like in high school, he would call?
He would call.
That's so cool.
And I wasn't even full-time, so it's not like he could call me the same time every week.
What was that kid up to in high school?
I don't know.
When he's like listening to sports
Self-promoter.
talk radio and call it? Yeah. Probably.
Didn't he enroll in Tennessee early, Bull? Like, didn't he skip his senior year of high school?
I
and
don't
enroll
remember,
in
to be
Tennessee
honest. I
early
didn't
to get
remember
to the
any of
draft
it.
earlier?
Somebody had to remind me of this recently.
So this may or may not have happened.
No, it did. It did. Once he told me about it, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember him calling, but I didn't remember it was, I didn't follow it.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So is the problem with the Sixers they just don't have depth on their bench and stuff like that, and that's why they're looking to do something like this?
Well, I think I tend to agree with Avery. I think he would be a good fit from Philly's side, although Harden, I don't know how Daryl Morey can be as intelligent as he is. He keeps getting snookered by.
But Jason,
James
you
Harden.
think Collin Sexton's going to stay? So that kind of,
Well,
or did you?
I think and this kind of leads into, this is where it gets a little bit complicated. I'm really fascinated to see what the contract is that Collin winds up getting because he fired his agent. His agent was, he had Zion Williamson's agent and didn't get the contract he wanted last year, fired him and went and got Rich Paul. And Rich obviously was one of the biggest power broker agents in the NBA, but he also represents Darius. So it's really kind of fascinating where this is going. Avery's right. Darius is getting a max. Like 601. They can negotiate at 6 o'clock, 601. Darius is getting a max. Collin's a lot more complicated. And what even further muddies the waters here is the Cavs would like to, it's not a sure thing, but they would like to stay out of the luxury tax one more year. And try and once you break that seal and you go into the tax, you're not coming back out. And where that matters is down the road. It doesn't necessarily matter right now, but it's the repeat offender clause that kicks in 4 years down the road, and it's real. And Dan Gilbert doesn't mind spending. He'll absolutely spend. We know that. But the repeat offender clause even hurts Dan.
Becomes more punitive.
Yes, it becomes unbelievably more punitive to where even he blinked when they were a repeat offender team toward the end of the championship window. So you're trying to push that off as long as you can and kick the can down the road. Well, so they're going to be right up against the tax line this year. And if Collins wants 18, 20 million, personally, I'm not giving that to him. If I'm the Cavs, I'm not giving him 20 million a year to be a bench player. So that's where something like this then
What would you give him? How high would you go?
I would keep it 15 and under.
Yeah.
And I know that's the going rate in NBA sixth men. And
why do I get the sense he's not interested in that?
I don't necessarily think that he is. He's been a starter his entire career. I think he probably wants to be paid like his numbers indicate, which is what I was screaming for years. Like, this is not good. They've got him in the wrong role. This isn't the role he's meant for. He's putting up a lot of points on a bad team, and now it's time to pay the bill for all that, for all the propaganda of all the Collins stuff and everything else, which I just thought was outrageous. Well, now it's time to pay the bill on some of that stuff.
Right.
So I don't know where this is going to go. It is fascinating that Avery is so adamant that he's not coming back. I think that the Cavs want him back if it's the right situation, if it's the right deal, if it's the right money that we're talking about. But I don't know, with Rich as his agent, I don't know that we're going to get there. And I do think this is going to be a really long negotiation. Whereas Darius is going to be quick, I think this Collin thing could drag out into the summer. We saw it with Lauri Markkanen last year. When did that go? That was like August. By the time they came to terms with Chicago and the sign and trade and everything else, I think Collin could be the same thing where this is really kind of extended. This is not going to end quickly.
You are right that his numbers are artificially boosted by the fact that he wasn't on a real bad team.
He's on a terrible team.
Let someone else pay that bill.
It's somewhat reminiscent of, remember when the Cavs had Ricky Davis and he was averaging like 26 points.
Shooting at the wrong basket.
Someone had to
shooting at the wrong basket. And I remember when we got LeBron, I remember Ricky Davis, this is how delusional that guy was. I remember him saying, I think that he's going to blend really well into my game.
Yeah, that is delusional.
He said something like that. Like, he's like, it'll be good to have a little extra score and help behind me in LeBron James. But, like, he had to score. Somebody has to score on that team, and that was him.
But the view around the league of Collin is exactly what I'm describing as a sixth man.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. I'm really curious to see how this contract thing goes.
Did he fire his agent because his agent was telling him the bad news and he didn't want to hear it?
Well, normally you fire your agent because you don't get the contract you want.
And so that would probably be a byproduct of your agent telling you you're a sixth man.
I'm looking at Tobias Harris's contract. He's making $38 million next year.
He's got 3 years left on his deal, I think.
It's 2. Yeah, 38 for next year, and then 41 the year after that.
So now you're probably bringing Kevin Love into a trade in that scenario.
Right.
Spend Dan Gilbert's money. He makes that on Keno in a weekend, right? Right?
He sold the casinos. He's out of the casino business.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I mean, how much better is Tobias Harris as an overall player than Collin Sexton?
They're two totally different players.
Yeah.
I mean, Collin is an undersized combo guard.
Right.
And I think he's got a role on this team. Like, as hard as I've been on him, he could play in the NBA. There were times last year where I was watching the game going, they could really use Collin right now. Just someone who could,
especially late in the year.
Give him the ball, get out of his way, let him go get a basket.
Yeah.
And so there's a role for that, but it comes with a certain price. And that's where I think if there is going to be a breakdown, that's where the breakdown is going to occur. Tobias is a completely different player. He's 6'7", 6'8" range. He can do more things on the floor, different things on the floor. He's, than what Collin can. Not a terrible three-point shooter. He can shoot the three. So we'll wait and see.
He's a better all-around player.
I would rather have Tobias Harris.
You've had some time to do some intel on the Cavs draft picks. Now that the dust has settled a little bit, you've been poking around. What have you found out?
Yeah, so, Ochai Agbaji obviously was the pick, and it was a little bit surprising only from the fact that he was a 4-year guy. And we were talking about Malachi Branham on the show. He was there. He was available to them. And they sort of passed on the upside. This was a very clear pivot in sort of the Cavs draft philosophy of pivoting on the guy who maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road could be a better player.
Yeah.
And taking the guy who's better right now. A couple reasons for that. Number one, they're not sure they're going to have the time, court time, or time to devote to letting a guy grow. They need someone who can come in and fill a need for them right now on this team. And they feel like Agbaji can do that. And the way it was sort of described to me is, if you think of when Kyle Korver was here, and I'm not comparing Agbaji to Kyle Korver, who's one of the best three-point shooters the NBA's ever seen, but just some of his screen actions and the way that he could catch and shoot and the way that he comes off screens and shoots the three and some of the actions that they could run with him, they haven't really had the opportunity to do that. And they have willing passers on this team. Darius Garland's a great passer. Jared Allen, I think, is a good passer for a big man. Mobley sees the floor well. So they have guys who can facilitate. They just need the guy on the other end who can knock down the shots, catch and shoot type guy. Dylan Windler was supposed to be that guy. He just hasn't panned out. It's one of the few picks really that they've missed on. I don't even know if you could call it a miss. He just hasn't been healthy.
Right.
And so they just feel like Agbaji can really fill that role. They know what they're getting with him. Best player on the national championship team. He's a good player. Is his ceiling as that of, no, it's not, or else he wouldn't have stayed 4 years in college and he would have gone in the top 10. So, but you know what you're getting with him, and you're getting a knockdown shooter, which this team really sort of needs.
You know what I don't like there is whenever I see this, I don't like that he's playing technically small forward probably for us, so you can put him in the 2.
I think he's a 2.
But regardless, I don't like him seeing like eye to eye with Commissioner Silver.
But Adam's tall.
I know he's tall, but I just looked it up. He's listed at 6'3". Who knows if he's faking that? In shoes, we don't know. But I want my NBA draft picks to be towering over the commissioner and him awkwardly looking up at him and saying, "Congratulations!" I don't like him seeing arm to arm like that. I want him to be a little taller.
He's probably more of a 2 than he is a 3.
Yeah, but he's supposed to be this knockdown. He's supposed to be a good defender. Supposed to be this knockdown. How are you going to get that shot off if you're my height, frankly, in the NBA?
And he's not much of a passer.
No, you're not looking at him to be a playmaker on the wing. No, you're looking at him to come in and make shots. He's the 3-point shooter that they need. And again, it's really sort of how do you get him open? It's the actions that you run. It's coming off screens and pin downs and that sort of thing that you think you can get him free and open, get him open looks in this system.
Overall, any other intel on the other guys in the class?
They liked the Frenchman, I think. I can't ever pronounce his name, but he was off the board.
We could just call him the Frenchman.
The Frenchman's fine.
Frenchie.
We'll put that on the back of his jersey, actually.
And I think sort of the way the board fell to them helped make their decision a little bit easier because outside of Branham, I don't know if there was another. They had to go to the 2-3 slot. Like that's where they were going to go, a 2/3. And the fact that Branham was really the only other one on the board in that range of, okay, are we taking upside or are we drafting for right now? And when we were on the show, that trade came down where they picked up the 49th pick when we were on the show, and I said, okay, clearly they want to bundle those and try and move up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I thought after the show, or they're trying to get back to the bottom of the first round. Turns out neither one of those were true. They just liked the price. They got that pick, that 49 pick for I think it was $1.75 million they paid for it.
Right.
And so they were able to take Isaiah Mobley, Evan's brother, on that. He's probably going to be on a 2-way contract next year. The other 2 guys they took in the second round will be overseas stashes. And they really didn't want to move back up into the first round, the bottom of the first round. They say they had opportunities to do that. They didn't really want to because they're high on Ricky Rubio. They want to bring Rubio back.
I love hearing that.
I'm glad. I do too. I'm really glad to hear that.
There's complications with that.
When will he be ready? November, December?
January.
Oh, January.
So that's part of the complication.
Yeah, that's tough.
You need to get by for half a year without a real true backup point guard. It's Collin if he's here. It's Karis LeVert trying to hold that role, and that's really not his role.
Well, maybe it's Collin, and then they move him halfway through the season when
I mean, that's early season anyway. Does it matter that much?
January? It's not that early. It's about halfway through the year.
Yeah.
So you're going to miss about half a year.
Kind of set a tone by then, too.
And also, I think you need to be realistic about what you're getting in Ricky. This is 2 massive knee injuries, 2 serious knee injuries he's had.
Yep.
He was playing out of his mind last year. It's the best ball of his career. Are you really, can you count on that level of play? I'm not sure that
I want him in here, even from a coaching perspective, still with these young guards. I know might not be worth that money in that roster spot, but I think that he's a big reason that they actually clicked last year.
They were cooking teams when he was out there.
That. Like I think he taught them a lot in a short period of time. It looked like that to me. It looked like they matured pretty quickly.
He helped them. He got the ball moving, and he helped them play the way that they need to play. But the point I made was, your whole season should not come crashing down because of Ricky freaking Rubio.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. So let's take a step back here and see what else this. But to close the loop on why they didn't move up to the bottom of the first round, if they bring Ricky back, and if Collin comes back, you're at 14 guaranteed contracts.
Yeah.
They didn't want to add a 15th. They want to have a little bit of roster flexibility.
That makes sense.
That's why they didn't want to come up to the bottom.
Isaiah,
of the first round.
though, is he here? He's here because he's his brother, and he's here to be friendly and hang out. Like,
I'm sure that's a lot to do with it.
He would not be on this team right now if Evan Mobley were not his brother.
He'd be in the NBA. Would he be on this team? No, I'm sure Evan's presence here has a lot to do with it.
Because I love that my boys are nerds. And I love that he brought his brother, who is also a nerd. They're running wind sprints somewhere together right now.
I'm sure it wasn't a situation where Mobley was like, you better draft.
No.
They just probably did it.
No, but
why not?
Yeah, why not?
Because at that point, it's a total crapshoot anyway.
Bring his dad in,
Look
too.
how young he is. I mean, we forget how young.
Yeah.
Go back to when you were a teenager, when you were 20 years old.
Now he's got his brother
What
here.
the hell? I mean, now he's at least got somebody that he trusts implicitly with him.
If they're burning a 2-way contract on him, they think there's a little bit of game. You can play a little bit in there. They're not going to
Brad said that he watched him at USC, and he said this kid's a player.
Yeah.
I mean, he would play somewhere in the NBA, but. Okay, let's do our ultimate five before we bring in Josina Anderson.
All right, but we're talking about Luke Travers later on, the Australian guy who looks amazing. We've got to talk about Luke.
Bull immediately dismissed him because of his haircut.
That was my favorite line. He goes,
like,
I
that
don't
guy
want
can't
him.
play. Yeah, I don't want him.
He looked like a guy who just walked out of the trailer park.
I know, but he looks like you throw a wig on me and I can be a great Luke Travers on this show. I can. I'll come out. I just got to work on my Australian accent. Let's be like, I'm just happy to be here. I can't do it.
It's not bad.
I will figure it out, though.
We do need to get my Judge J might work.
See, that's the problem. I always go Cockney.
Yeah.
It's different, the Australian accent. I gotta watch Crocodile Dundee, too.
Get in the mood.
Yep, just to find that
Then
Paul
use my
Hogan
Judge
vibe.
J wig, and there you go. You're set.
Hello.
Hey, I'm with Polk.
Yeah.
I saw the hair. I was like, this dude's a winner.
Guy's
Like,
amazing.
You cannot go wrong.
I
with
love
hair
it.
like
I've
that.
never seen him play, but I love his game.
He's got the flow.
I'm with you. Yeah.
got the
Polk,
flow.
real quick. I know you said you've never seen his game. What type of player do you think he is? Like, what would you guess his game is?
Deli.
They're
all that way.
No, I don't think he's too lanky, and they haven't played. They actually had him playing point guard. I read for a while too, which is hilarious.
Can't you see this guy having he's the guy that he guards you and you want to punch him in the face because he's all over you.
He reminds me of
There's
Uncle
no space.
Rico from Napoleon Dynamite.
Physically, yeah, right, no doubt. But no, I'm excited to watch him, and I could see him being like a fan favorite when we get him up here. Get that dude to the Cleveland Charge, and people will be selling T-shirts with that goofball face on.
By the way, later at some point I have to tell the story about when I did an escape room with Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh my gosh, that must be.
Well, let's do top 5.
Yeah.
If
we would have won the
Josina
states.
isn't ready yet, we'll tell that story.
That was the highlight.
Real quick, before Josina comes on, let's give Josina some love. She tweeted she was coming on.
Nice.
Oh, listen, Josina's the best.
And announced she was joining the show. So
she is the best. You guys are going to love her.
Good.
All right, so today's Ultimate 5 is sponsored, as always, by our favorites, Brownstone Insurance. Brownstone offers a better alternative to affordable quality health care.
I don't know how Vanna
For more
does
than a
it.
decade, Brownstone Insurance has been saving mid and small businesses money. Up to 20%. Yeah, an average of 20%.
20%?
Contact us today to learn how you can get great health care
How do they
benefits
stay
that
in
your
business?
employees will love and save money too. Jason, great G. Bush impression.
Thank
How's
you.
your Warren Sapp?
I can't do it.
That's pretty damn good, though.
Not as good as Garrett.
Yeah, we miss you, babe. We miss you, Jay.
All right, what's the top 5?
So today's top 5, I was on a Zoom call with Steve Becker after the show yesterday, and Steve Becker's son, Luke, said, "Hey, Luke," talking to me, "I have a top 5 for you."
Is that the kid that has a mullet?
He looks like the Cavs draft pick. But with black hair instead of
our
blonde hair.
EP's child is dictating our show now. That's great.
Yeah, let's let it roll, baby.
All right, sure.
Well, he said it'd be a great Ultimate 5 to do the most annoying fan bases. So I said, okay, you know what, Luke?
That's a good
Ask
topic.
and you shall
Good job.
receive. So let's start with number 5, including myself here, Yankees fans. We are beyond obnoxious.
Insufferable.
I don't know how the Yankees fans are not
Insufferable.
number 1, but all right.
Yeah, I think that's too low.
So we're drilling down by team, not even city. We're
No,
going
this is
by
team
team.
specific.
Teams.
Team
Okay.
specific.
Okay.
New York has 2 fan bases: Yankees, Giants, Mets, Jets.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
The Mets Jets fans aren't as obnoxious as the Yankee Giants. Now, there's some crossover, but generally,
very little. If you're a Giants
Generally,
fan,
it's
you're a
Yankee
Yankee
Giants.
fan. And if you're a
Generally.
Mets
That's so
fan, you're a
strange to
Jets
me.
fan.
That's so
It is
strange.
really
There is.
strange.
I do know some people that crisscross.
I used to
but-
play a game because so many people at ESPN are from New York. When I would
Yeah.
find out they were from New York, I would wait maybe 2 or 3 days, and then
Yeah.
I would say, "You are a Mets Jets." Huh? Be like, wow, how did you know?
Interesting.
Man, I'm telling you, you talk about inferiority complex.
Oh, yeah,
They,
no
it
doubt.
just reeks. You can smell it when they
Yeah.
walk in a room.
Yeah.
And you can smell the Yankee
But it-
Giant obnoxious.
Oh God.
But it
Fan.
takes more bravery to be a Mets fan, so why is there
Way more.
insecurity there?
Wait,
Right.
but,
And
well,
Jets.
it's
Yeah.
just it's an inferiority complex because they have to watch the Giants and the Yankees win
Right.
everything.
That would be trying.
Go ahead.
Okay, number 4.
Yeah, what gets worse?
Number 4, and we're going to fly through these because Josina's
Sure.
getting ready right now.
Okay,
so we're
great.
Gonna fly through these. Number 4, we mentioned this before, Mississippi State fans, cowbells, they drive me crazy.
I
They're
don't really
annoying.
hate
That's
They're
an
terrible.
irrelevant franchise.
Yeah, they're irrelevant.
Yep, I don't hate them at
That
all.
don't belong in the
Number
list.
3.
I'll hate them just for fun.
Okay.
They have cowbells. There's too many cowbells. We don't need cowbells in this world. All right, number 3, Steve, let's take it. This is a personal one for me, but it also applies to everyone else here. Patriot fans and Steelers fans for the same reasons of why they're obnoxious. They win too much. They brag. They don't understand what defeat is. I hate them all.
Yeah, they're
I don't mind
entitled.
comparing them together.
You don't mind
Yeah.
that?
I don't mind it.
I think Patriot fans are worse than Steeler fans, but
I tend to agree with that. But yeah, for the most part, I think that's pretty accurate.
All right, number
2.
Number 3 or that was number 3. Number 2.
Number 2, once again, this is personal. This was my most annoying fan base.
Oh,
Is Texas
okay.
Longhorn
These are
fans
his.
suck. They're the worst.
Yeah,
Again,
see,
they're
that sucks
irrelevant.
because
Yeah, just some
they're
weird.
like
they're
you know,
irrelevant.
whatever. We don't care about
They're
them in
nothing.
Ohio. They don't
Somebody
win.
that he didn't like
They're not
went
a
there.
rivalry.
But that's why they're annoying. They don't win, yet they still talk like they're the
Well,
greatest.
if that's the case, put Notre Dame fan in.
Notre Dame should be.
Notre
Notre
Dame
Dame fan
fans-
every year's like, we're going 11-0, and the
Yeah.
media, they'll be like 7-3, and they're number 4.
Notre
in the
Dame was
country.
number 6. They're the ones that just made the
Oh,
mission.
they're
real
way
Notre
more
Dame's
obnoxious than.
I hate them too.
Nope.
two-
All right, number 1, though, I think we could all agree. Sorry, Steve, but Eagles fans are the absolute worst of all fans. They're mean. They're disrespectful. They take
Stupid.
personal
They're
attacks.
stupid.
Yeah.
They booed Santa
I don't know.
Claus.
Santa Claus.
They
Philadelphia
cheered when
fans
Michael
are the worst.
Irvin was laying on the turf, not moving.
Yeah.
I don't
mean,
know.
do you want me to
No, you don't.
infuriate everybody?
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
Ohio State's got to be on that list.
Listen.
They're the most.
I'm glad you were the bad
insufferable-
guy.
It's true. They're the most insufferable, obnoxious fans.
And I
I
am
haven't
one.
been to a
in
game.
college
I actually
football.
don't know.
I
awful.
have had to defend Ohio
awful.
State fan for the last 30 years.
And most
my
of them
life.
are the ones that didn't actually
Yes,
go.
that's the,
Right,
there's
didn't
a
go
specific-
there.
The ones that went to Ohio State are okay. It's the ones who didn't go to Ohio State are just
Jason and I walked
miserable
around Kent
people.
State together for 7 years each, and we both had to see people wearing Ohio State stuff. We're like, we are at a Division I football school. It's terrible, but you went here. You are going to this school right now. At least wait until you're not enrolled before you start wearing other schools' clothes.
You could put Ohio State in the top 3, and I would be totally like, that's
Yeah,
where they
I'm
belong.
surprised you didn't.
I
really
did not.
am.
didn't
All
wanna
the
take the
research
hit.
I did.
He's trying
they
to
were not on
ingratiate
any
himself
list
to
of
the
the
fans.
worst
Yeah,
teams.
exactly. That's why
You know,
Pittsburgh.
you're from here.
Jay,
You
this
can get away with that.
I want to see if this drives you as crazy as it does me.
Yeah.
When Ohio State loses the first game of the year, I don't care whether it's Urban, I don't care who was the coach. They lose the first game of the year, whether it was week 3 or week 11. He's got to go.
Fire him.
He's got to go.
Fire him.
I mean, look, did
Change
you see that
the
offense
quarterback.
today? Yeah,
Fire him.
it's unreal.
Yep.
Remember how they did
JT Barrett's a
Good
great
point,
example.
B.
My goodness. I mean, it's
point.
like you're not allowed to have an incompletion?
And I covered Ohio. I actually covered Brian Hartline at Ohio State. I covered Ohio State for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I got all the hate mail, so I know.
I covered them for 5 years when I worked at Channel 10 in
Yeah.
Columbus.
But listen, Ohio State,
You
Kent
could not
State,
go on air and say anything
Oh,
even
I know.
remotely negative
Yeah.
about them. You'd be
Kent
fired.
Kent State will probably see you at your homecoming game so you can beat the crap out of us. That's usually how we roll.
Yeah, that's how. But it's a hell of a check. You get $1 million bucks to get your.
We'll go get massacred
All
down
right,
there.
we're really pumped because our next guest is not just a personal friend of mine, but I think she's the hardest working woman in NFL media. Listen to her jobs. She's the senior NFL insider for USA Today, NFL insider for CBS Sports headquarters. She's host of The Crew and Undefined with Josina Anderson. She's also my former colleague and a terrific person. Josina Anderson, welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. It is great to see you again.
What's up? Can you guys hear me okay? My camera is a little different because I couldn't get it to connect to my camera in my studio, but I'm on the laptop camera right now.
You
so it's
look
fine.
great. We can hear you. Everything. It's great to see you. How you been? Everything good?
Well, let me turn off my phone because Twitter notifications are going crazy. But, as you know, this is typically the rest period before training camp starts. And, none of the media obviously covering the Browns, who are covering the Washington Commanders, the Texans, I think the Ravens and the Cardinals. I don't think anybody doing any of those stories are getting any rest right now.
Yeah, there's no rest for you guys, especially right now. So empty your reporter notebook on what we should know about this hearing that's going on with the NFL today and the Deshaun Watson incident. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so we know that Sue Robinson is having the opportunity to talk to Deshaun Watson herself in person. Sue Robinson is the jointly appointed hearing officer for both the NFL and the NFLPA. And really, she's the kind of first stopgap in this new process that is under the the CBA that was obviously redone in 2020. With this case, it's kind of giving us an opportunity to see how something like this would flow through how they're doing things now. And the reason why I say she's kind of that first stopgap is because when she makes her findings, she determines that there is a violation. Then Roger Goodell, after that, has the opportunity to weigh in, whether he keeps it the way it is, goes up or down. But if she determines that there is no violation, then that's kind of the final ruling right there. One of the things that I just tweeted before coming on your show is that at least the expectation going into this hearing with Deshaun Watson is that the NFL was expected to focus on 5 women of the 24 that obviously involve the civil litigations that at least before settling 20 of them that Deshaun Watson was facing. And of those 2, at least if nothing has changed with their strategy, that 2 of those 5 were women who had their cases dismissed by 2 separate grand juries, per league sources in the conversations that I've had. And we're also expecting, at least from Deshaun Watson's side, for there to be a presentation eventually at some point for them to present what they feel are their purported mistruths and the allegations that Deshaun Watson has been facing. And then the last point that I just pointed out on Twitter was that obviously per the report from the Wall Street Journal that the NFL was expected to pursue an indefinite suspension for a minimum of a year, and that tactically, obviously on the other end, that Deshaun Watson is expected to, at least his side is expected to argue for 0 games at the opposite spectrum of that, kind of per how you would expect a negotiation to go. And the last point is that there's still, even though I did report that talks did fall apart heading into this hearing, there's always, at least mechanically, still the opportunity for a settlement before Sue Robinson comes to her findings.
Josina, do you think that we will, so let's say when Sue Robinson comes to whatever penalty she thinks there should be, do you think that will get out there initially, or will the league put that out there, or is we going to have to wait for somebody like you to break the news on that, or will the league just try to, if the league doesn't like what her penalty is that she's suggesting, will they ignore it, not put it out, and then just say, hey?
So I expect, since this hearing officer is jointly appointed, right, she's there to provide a buffer before Roger Goodell. Okay. So it would make sense to then make that known, whether it comes out from the league saying it, and obviously we're in this process, but I would expect that. And even if it doesn't, we'll find out anyways. But yes, I expect for us to know, because she's there to provide a buffer for then the league to bounce off of that and be like, well, this is what she said, now this is what we say. You see what I'm saying? So that why not use that?
So one of the two sides will leak it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if not officially presented by the NFL. I mean, if you remember, in the Ezekiel Elliott case, we were able to read kind of how that went. I believe in the Myles Garrett. I believe in Tom Brady. So there have been instances where we have heard what has happened behind the scenes via, a written decision. I would expect that to be the case here. I can't say that I know that for sure. I'm just, thinking common sense. It would make sense for at least the league to have that be known. Mm-hmm.
Do you think we'll know that before the end of this week? I mean, is that going to happen that quickly, or is it still going to be more time, you think?
So I have, league sources that are saying, and of course, just because this is what they're saying doesn't mean it will ultimately flow that way. But at least the expectation is for us to, have some sort of understanding before the July 4th holiday. Will it go that way? That's what they're striving for at this point. And then because it makes sense, and also what I've heard is, the goal is to have, the Browns and the teams associated with figuring all this out, because obviously there are multiple people connected to this, including Baker Mayfield, to have an understanding of, where all this sits prior to training camp. That's the goal. Will it end up that way? We'll see. Mm-hmm.
Do you get a sense, Josina, of just how strong the Watson camp believes his case is? I know you said that at some point during this hearing he'll have the opportunity to present what they believe will be mistruths to try to shoot down some of these allegations. How much confidence do they have in their set of truth, in their set of facts?
I've never heard any equivocations, at least per how they feel about their side, what we've heard direct from Deshaun Watson's mouth in his introductory press conference, and then also when he spoke during the first day of mandatory camp, and I was there for that in person. I think Deshaun Watson has continued to try to show, at least especially the second time that he spoke, his understanding for the sensitivity of what's being discussed, especially when he was asked that question about whether he has any regrets about saying he didn't have any regrets. And I believe that answer was, I understand why people were triggered by that answer, but he still asserted that he did no wrongdoing. And to that end, per what you're hearing from his own mouth, at least when I've talked to sources relative to how they feel about that in that vein, and some of the things that I think will come to be revealed with respect to the evidence that they present, I have not heard any equivocation.
Josina, we've heard over and over and over the league is pushing for a minimum of a year suspension. If that's the case, then it's going to be a year, because Roger can just change whatever decision Sue makes. What am I missing here?
Well, the thing first of all, we have to hear from Sue first, and she could fall anywhere on that spectrum. Okay, like, so let's just say, and I'm not saying this is what she'll do, but just to give you an example, and I tweeted this, what if Sue Robinson shows deference to the fact that Deshaun Watson still has pending litigation and she feels that any findings from her would be prejudicial to what's still ongoing? What number would that be?
Yeah.
What if, Sue Robinson feels like on the other end of that, and I don't know, that 24 allegations is 24 allegations, and, she goes that way because she's deferential to a number, So that's why I'm just saying, especially to try to stay in the middle here, is that we really first and foremost need to hear what Sue Robinson thinks. Nobody knows what Sue Robinson thinks, but assuming that there's not a settlement before she comes up with a decision, where she stakes that flagpole along that spectrum will, I think, then give us an idea of where or where not the league or Roger Goodell can maneuver, at least trying to show some deference to a degree of what Sue says.
This obviously is not a
Does
court
that make
of,
sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a court of law. So these 20 cases that have been dismissed, do we have any idea how much impact those are going to have? I know they're focusing on these 4 or 5 cases, but there are still 20 cases out there, and all the allegations are known, and they're all public. So even though those cases are settled, the horses are still out of that barn. How much of an impact are those 20 settled cases going to have on any sort of verdict? Do we have any idea?
So a couple of things. One, the NFL spokesman, I believe, Brian McCarthy tweeted, I believe that was on the 21st of June, that the settled cases are to bear no impact on the process. So that was from the league. And that's kind of, when I heard that statement, that's what kind of led me to make some more calls, because I just felt that was interesting timing, saying that relative to just what you said, the power that they hold at least at the end of this process. So I thought that was interesting. But I think an even more interesting question for me is, even though he was facing 24 civil lawsuits, why is the league, at least per the expectation of what we're hearing, why are they just focusing on 5?
Yeah, I found that interesting too. Like, have they already dismissed? Because I think you said that we know that at least 2 of those 5 were pursuing criminal charges in the indictment, of which on two cases there were no charges handed down.
2 separate grand juries, determined to, that there was it wasn't to be followed up with an indictment. It was a no bill or what have you, unless, somewhere in this process, they're changing their, the strategy or what have you. But that's what I was hearing per the expectation going into the hearing. But I do think that is a question is, we all have been talking about all of these, ladies that have the right to say what they feel. And certainly their oral testimony is worthy of being heard. But I do think it's an interesting objective question to ask, given that totality, why is the league focusing on just the amount that we're expected for them to be, following, so to speak.
It is an interesting distinction for sure. One of the things that we know could happen here, it's very unlikely. In fact, no one on this panel thinks it's possible at all that Sue Robinson says there's absolutely no punishment in order here. We expect that she'll say somewhere, where will she, in your words, put the flagpole? We think there will be a number of games. At that point, that allows the appeal, and we know that Roger Goodell then could hear the appeal himself and rule, or he could appoint someone else. I can't imagine, Josina, just on the optics alone.
Now you know why this got to get done before July 4th, at least the Sue Robinson, at least you would think, to stay on time.
No,
you know what I'm
it
saying?
makes sense. It makes sense, but I can't imagine a scenario where Roger Goodell says that he will hear the appeal and make the ultimate decision. The optics of that, particularly what's going on with the NFLPA saying we are going to bring up the previous allegations against owners and how they were judged. I can't imagine that Roger Goodell would make the ruling himself. He certainly will appoint someone else to hear that appeal, won't he?
I mean, I'm not sure. I think that's why I just keep going back to, it really just depends on what Sue says and where that number stands. Like, let's say hypothetically she were to say 4 games. That lever is more that flagpole is more on the other side. Then that gives some room for Roger to still optically look like he's coming down hard. So that you see what I'm saying? I just think that we just need to wait until we hear from Sue. That presumably, assuming there's no settlement before that, and that will give us some indication of where we think that it will go. Roger was just before Congress, speaking about the situation with Daniel Snyder and the Washington Commanders, who, by the way, they're trying to figure out how to get to France and serve him that subpoena. That's a whole other thing. Deshaun Watson, at least per reports, is attending this hearing. But I think we just, given the fact that has occurred, with Roger Goodell, and we know that the league overall is sensitive to optics and sensitive to the entire picture, that could also stand to reason why he may want to do it himself. So I just think we have to wait. You know what I mean?
Josina, just imagine they drop the hammer. We lose Watson for the whole year. How deep do you think the Baker Mayfield-led Browns can go into the playoffs this year?
Oh my God.
Hey, listen, I have been talking about this. I saw the comments that Baker Mayfield said that he today, at least. I haven't seen all of them, so I haven't seen everything because I'm running to get ready for your show and other things that I've got after this. But I did see, at least in a tweet, where he said he thinks both sides are ready to move on, but potentially, it would be, the Browns would need to reach out more, something like that. I know I'm not, quoting that right. I don't have it right in front of me.
That's accurately paraphrased.
Mm-hmm. But that's mostly the sentiment, right? So Here's the thing. Baker Mayfield, part of the reason why I feel like he knows he needs to say that, Baker Mayfield's under contract. He doesn't get to dictate where he goes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
You're under contract. You have, unless you don't want that 18 point. I mean, he could give it to me. I'll take the 18 million. But he 18.858 million. You see, the Browns are paying that anyway. So I think, as I said on Colin Cowherd's show yesterday, I think it behooves the Browns to figure out what's going on with Deshaun, and then we'll go from there. They still have to get something that they feel is proportionate or commensurate with your value in order to give you away, because we know they're not going to give you away because they're going to pay you anyways. We've been talking about that. That doesn't make any sense. So everything has to make sense. And what if that includes, them telling you need to come back?
Boom.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then we are going to find out where Baker Mayfield stands. I'm sorry, my boss at CBS always told me I'm talking with my hands too much. With my hands.
No, I love it. We love it. It shows passion.
Be yourself, Joe. Be yourself.
But what I'm saying is that we are going to find out where Baker Mayfield stands relative to how he wants to handle this for somebody who is under contract, because eventually the deadline for training camp will come up. And so we will see. And I just think that, listen, there are many of us who in our careers feel disrespected, awkward to come to work. Not just this, not just that. You know what I'm saying? This is not fair or whatever. And you know what we all have to do?
Go to work.
Shut up and go to work.
Mm-hmm. We got to come to work. So I'm so tired. Listen, I'm down the middle. But with regards to this issue, I'm just tired of people saying, oh, it's awkward. Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying? In the sense that there's in America, in this world, many of us have to deal with that. So we'll see how Andrew Berry decides to handle this relative to what is on the table at the time of training camp, and if he feels that is enough to pull the lever for somebody who was a first-round number 1 overall pick.
Josina, I know you've mentioned on Twitter a couple of times, you've mentioned Seattle. We've talked about Seattle here if he does get traded. Carolina's certainly been mentioned. We were talking yesterday about, hey, both these teams want to get rid of these quarterbacks. Would it make sense to swap Baker for Jimmy Garoppolo? Would that make, what's the latest on Seattle, and would that make any sense, a Baker for Garoppolo switch?
I don't think that it makes sense for Baker if you're getting rid of Garoppolo because you intend to focus on Trey, right? And that's why you're getting rid of Jimmy. Jimmy has led the 49ers to two Super Bowls? Am I correct on that?
One Super Bowl,
one Super Bowl, and thank you. Okay, so very close. All right, and at least when you're talking about the arms race that happened this offseason with the way that the Rams stocked up, the Raiders, I mean, all of these teams, and I've had these conversations with 49er sources or whatever, went down at the owners meeting for in West Palm Beach. My personal opinion is I think that Jimmy still gives you the best opportunity relative to the competition when we get to the postseason to be competitive. So if you were doing that, you're saying that you're focusing on Trey. And I don't know if that's the best scenario for Baker. I don't know that necessarily makes sense relative to everything that they gave up to give to Trey, and then what Cleveland would need in exchange to make that make sense. I'd have to kind of go through and look at what their draft compensation is. But I know that they gave up a lot to give Trey. You know what I mean?
What about Seattle?
As I reported, high level of interest. They would like him, but people keep talking about this is about the money and whatever because it's depending on how much a team will take on or whatever. And technically that's true, but it's really not the case. This is about principle, pride, and philosophy. The Browns, per my understanding, have the most cap room in the league at like 42 or whatever. It's 40 plus million when you factor in the Austin Hooper contract. The Panthers have 25. The Seahawks can do this. Even if you pay him for half for Baker, half of 18 is 9. When you look at the fact that right now there's 7 quarterbacks earning over 40 million a year to be a starter, 9 million is nothing. Yeah. Even if you're paying 75% of 18, that is nothing. We're not fighting over money. We're fighting on what we think we should do, because we know that eventually you would like to get rid of Baker. It's not about the price. It's about what I think or I feel I should pay.
So week 1, September, what's your best guess? Where's Baker? Cleveland, Seattle, Carolina, San Francisco, or somewhere else?
Well, one thing I think we haven't mentioned a lot is, is the interesting kind of connection here between Scott Fitter, who works with the Panthers, and John Schneider. Right now, they used to work together. Now they're on the opposite ends of this. So it'll be interesting if behind the scenes, if one kind of starts cranking up on the other. Right? I was hearing that the Seahawks are open to a contract extension with the Seahawks. I know per the history of the Panthers and what they were able to get done with Teddy Bridgewater and bringing down his number before he went down to the Broncos, it makes sense that they would try that with Baker. Right? And whether that's flying or not. So behind the scenes now, let's watch the mechanics of how both of them, maybe try to go up on each other, so to speak, to either get this done or not done per pride and philosophy and principle based on the conversations with Andrew. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this is why you kind of have to watch those lines and the history and the relationships behind the scenes, because sometimes they can kind of tell you things too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So is that your bet where it'll be on opening day?
I think. I mean, as of right now, I feel like a report that also came out before, although I don't have it right in front of me. I believe that there was a report that had said that, I know Aaron Wilson recently said that there's mutual interest with Baker Mayfield and the Seahawks. And I believe that there's a report a few weeks ago talking about after the Colts had gotten Matt Ryan, that now Baker preferred to go to the Seahawks, whatever. I think that that's, the case in terms of the assets that are there with Tyler Lockett. It makes sense. So if you're asking me, if it were, that's what I would predict now, but certainly things can change. You know what I mean? Because it's not up to Baker.
But the one thing that I take away from it is, and you're plugged in, you're talking to a lot of different teams. You don't think that the ship has completely left the port, that there is a Baker and Browns reunion. Am I reading that right?
Because I think that even if there's a 1% chance, there's still a chance. And I just think that when you apply common sense, yes, the Browns do believe in Jacoby Brissett. They believe he's one of the best, not that he can't be a starter, but relative to the role that he's in now, that he's one of the best number 2 quarterbacks in the league. But the problem is, behind Jacoby Brissett, you have Josh Dobbs, who's never started a game. And even though we've got confidence and you're going to say all the coach speak, the reality is he's never started a game. Mm-hmm. So if Jacoby Brissett gets hurt, you know what I'm saying? You have to cover yourself. I mean, I try to report and think on things that make sense.
I've tried that too, but boy, they kill me for it.
But if Deshaun ends up, it goes in a way that, has him out for an extended period of time, it would make sense for you to tell Baker Mayfield to pick up his pill and come to work until we figure this out. And oh, by the way, these comments that Baker Mayfield keeps making about, I think it's time that we both move on. Baker, if you would like to leave Cleveland, which we know that you would, those comments are not helping the compensation that Andrew Berry needs to get in order to ship you off, because it's not in your power. So that's not helping.
Great point.
I think it's very, very interesting, though, that he said, I would talk if they reached out to me. They haven't reached out to me.
And oh, by the way,
that just says there's a chance that they could fix this thing.
Well, Jay, and I won't go into the specifics, and I know people getting on me about Twitter, you tweet these things and you don't follow up on it. Well, first of all, I don't do that to tease. I really don't do that to tease. Sometimes I say that because I'm literally just like you all. I'm reacting to things, right? And sometimes, not everything is at the point where I can say certain things on Twitter. It just is what it is. That's part of being an insider, right? Nope. But my point is, but relative to what I did say, and I know your show ends at 1:00, is that that
never stops us.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Is that that's just not my understanding. I think the way that is making it sound as if there's been no reach out on the Browns' behalf relative to how I just know how things were going down before mandatory camp. I don't know. He might say that that's not what he was intimating, but if that was what he was intimating, then that's not in accordance with my understanding.
By the way, this is exactly what I'll read the tweet here. This guy Casey Murdoch from Oklahoma says, I asked Baker if there was any chance for a reconciliation with the Browns if they were without their quarterback this season. He said the Browns would have to reach out to start that process. Mayfield said he has moved on. So that's the exact.
Yeah, so I feel like if that is
there. Yes, there's a chance, but I've moved on.
Yeah, right.
But he's also saying there's a chance.
Well,
I think Bull doesn't want to focus on that part.
So just to kind of get to the last part of that statement again, the last part of that what that intimates is different from my understanding based on how things were going down before mandatory camp. And then to what Jay was saying, as far as that sounding diametrically opposing, I think you feel that because Baker knows that it's not in his power.
Right.
So you're saying, just to clarify, Josina, you're saying that based on your sources, the Browns would have been willing to have him at mini camps, or they were talking to him and he was not reciprocating, or am I getting that right?
I don't want to get into details. I would just say the way because again, I'd have to kind of go back and circle around, and then if got the green light, whatever. But I would just say that per my understanding, the way he's intimating that is contrary to my understanding. You can take from whatever.
Okay, I'll take that.
Yep.
Delicately put.
Yeah.
By the way, Josina, before you go, you have not only broken into a field, you've destroyed a field in a positive way. Like you busted down the door of a field that has been a male-dominated field, right? You're an NFL insider, and from my perspective, which I don't know you personally, and I don't know the truth. But it seems to me, I've been saying this for a while, that you seem to be the most connected insider of everybody, especially on the players' side. I feel like the players really trust you. They're very comfortable. Now, I don't know that for a fact because you have these relationships. I don't. Is that accurate? And how did you make that happen? Because that's not an easy thing to do, obviously.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the kind words. I won't assert whether that's true or not. I'll just take that to be, what you think, and I appreciate that. But as far as how, that came to be, I would just say quickly that, originally started off as a basketball insider, contrary to what people know. And then, when I went to Fox in Denver, I broke this story about Ricky Williams being gone for the whole year when he was a running back for the Dolphins. Sure. And that got me on Cold Pizza, which that's when I first met Jay.
Right. And she killed it.
Because of that story. And, ever since it kind of just ballooned from there. I was like, oh, you like that. And so I just kind of, went with that. And I think after that, one of my next big stories was Larry Johnson being out for the year for the Chiefs, the running back, and Herm Edwards was the head coach at the time. And then they tried to shoot down my story, like, who's this girl from Denver? Who does she think she is? And then they waited, I remember this stuff, to December 24th before they put out the release attesting to the fact that it was true. And then it went on from there, and it was broke this story, broke that story, whatever. And then Peter King and then Jason Whitlock at the time, they write these articles about this girl, and then, now I do Showtime, the ESPN, and then the rest is history. So that's kind of how it was. But I would just say lastly to that end was just that, and I'll say this to reporters who are young reporters who are listening or what have you, one of the things that I think is crucial in that is that when I was covering the local team in Denver, typically, what you do is you follow the team that you're locally there and geographically bound to cover, what have you. But I really made it a point, and still to this day, especially if I'm in a city, is I was making a point to always go to the opposing locker room. That's how, and just to continue to build my sources when the other people would come in from other towns, because I already got the Broncos. I'm trying to find out everybody else. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well,
thank you, Josina. That was awesome.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I had a front row seat for all of that. I remember vividly when we brought Josina on, everybody was asking, who is this? And I said, if you read her on a regular basis, you'll know she's dialed in and she's got incredible sources and contacts. And I've been so proud to watch from a distance you develop into the insider that you are. You do a marvelous job, and
she's a megastar now.
She is, yeah. She's just huge.
All
and
right, you guys.
She does it by being fair to the players,
yeah.
And they've earned her trust. I've talked to players.
Doubt. She's gonna get a big head, you guys.
Well, no,
keep doing
one thing I can tell you about Josina.
No, but I want to say that Jay is equally as great. You know what I'm saying? Just as far as always being very cordial and kind. I wanted this to be a mutual flower throwing session, and I'm sure you all know there that Jay is just a genuinely a great person, and trust me, y'all know I say how I feel. I don't feel like about everybody.
No,
you just say nothing about it. If you hated him, you just wouldn't say anything.
That's right.
No.
JoJo, great to see you again, and we'll have you back.
Yes,
we'll have you back. So
yes, I appreciate it.
Be ready for my calls.
1 o'clock that I'm late for. All right, so we'll talk soon.
You were wonderful.
Yeah,
thank
you. Josina Anderson does a terrific job. She really does. McNuggets, you have your hand up.
Yeah, real quick, we're going to run through final takes. Everyone gets a minute, but before that, breaking news, the Cavaliers have extended a qualifying offer to Collin Sexton, making him a restricted free agent. So,
yeah,
we expected it, but it's now officially official.
Had to do it.
Right.
We have final takes. Everyone goes. We have 4.5 minutes, 6.5 minutes.
All right, there's a major problem that I want to warn a lot of you about. It's rather distressing, but let me just lay this out there. When you turn 50, you're going to start peeing every hour.
Here we go.
Okay? I have a major urination problem. I have to see a doctor. Maybe it's more serious. I don't know. I woke up not 1, not 2, but 3 times last night to pee. Okay, I ate an entire cantaloupe yesterday.
That's a very water-based fruit. Very water-based fruit.
Size of a
chicken
football.
nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
I went to bed at 10:30. I'm like, I'm going to bed early tonight. Doing good. The Guardians game was a disaster, so I shut it off early. Go to bed at 10:30. I wake up, I'm like, it's morning. I'm like, it's 12:30. And then I woke up at 2:30, and then I woke up at 4:30. What is happening? And this is your future, people. This is your future.
And it gets worse.
Oh, my God.
I'm 56. I'll be 57 in a week.
I don't know what's going to happen when I turn 60.
It's ugly,
Hang in there,
bro.
brother.
I got to go right now. Are we done yet?
We're hurrying. That's the march of time. Cleveland, I have a final take for you guys. Here, I love you. You know that. But at the same time, we got to talk about something. Priorities, people. You built that we taxpayer funded that beautiful Rocket Mortgage Arena. You're welcome, everyone. You want us to build a new Browns stadium with tax dollars. Okay, we'll talk about that too. Put a dome on it. Keep it downtown. Please don't put that in Independence. I'll never go there. Next. But here's what you need to prioritize. Can we get some parking meters that don't run on coins?
Yeah!
Yes.
What are you doing? What is this, 1987? Are you kidding me? I've still got to bring a pocket full of loose change downtown if I want to support local businesses. I have not gone to restaurants before because I'm downtown. I'm like, I don't have a quarter. I can't go into that restaurant because you know what will happen if I do? I'll get another ticket. Also, can someone help me pay these off? If anyone is watching from the city and you'd be willing to make these go away somehow, maybe I can hook it up, get you some Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show merch or something like that. But please, get with the times. And by the times, I mean the 1990s, and get some credit card-based parking meters. It's not too much to ask. Final take.
That's so
it's
true.
It's a scheme.
It is.
To get the parking tickets.
I know.
It's a racket.
It's all
criminal.
a system.
All right, here's my final take. I need to understand better how we come about with tipping, because I'm a big tipper, 20% minimum. But I got to thinking about it. If I buy a $75 bottle of wine, why do I have to tip more because they went
Exactly.
As opposed to like these poor people that work at Bob Evans who just run and run and run and run for like $5.
Just as much work.
I don't understand why it's based on the total amount of the bill. We need to rethink the way that we do this and give these people what they earn. The people at Bob Evans are working way harder than they are at this fancy steakhouse where you just ordered a $65 steak and a $75 bottle of wine, and I got to give them a $40 tip. When the Martha is running your eggs and your coffee and working twice as hard, we need to revamp the way that we think about tipping.
Very good.
And to back up your point real quick, you're 100% right. I worked in restaurants when I was younger. The cheaper restaurants, you're doing more, right? At those fancy restaurants, they take your order, and then the busboy does all the work.
It's awful.
Or a server. They just have a server come over.
I was a server in college for one semester. I was awful. The very first table, this woman came in with an oxygen tank and her own can of Pepsi. She only wanted a cup of ice. I'm like, I got this. Went to reach on the table, knocked the ice all over her. She gasped. I thought I killed her. I thought I killed her. She's like,
Now, if you had killed her, that would be even a better story.
Europe has it right. There's no tipping, and they get a better wage.
Well,
it's factored into the cost of your meal,
right?
But the employee is paid the wage by the restaurant owner.
I just don't understand.
I would be fine with that system here.
I just don't understand how these poor people that work the hardest make the least because the prices are lower on the menu as opposed to the fancy schmancy.
I tip big all the time.
But
although I don't think we should have to tip when we pick up food from a restaurant.
Agree.
Right?
Yeah,
I do because I feel like I have
when
to.
you use your card, there's always a spot for a tip. 10, 20,
It's like you just handed me the bag.
And now they're staring at you when they flip it over, and they're just like, if you want a tip, go ahead. And they just like stare at you like this.
And pouring me a coffee does not get you a tip. I'm sorry.
Also, fast food workers, still no tip for you for some reason. Sorry.
Jay's got about 55 seconds for his final take.
I'm out of time. We've got 1 minute left before the stream ends, so I'll be very, very quick here. We've talked about the hearing today. We've talked about the process when Sue Robinson comes forward with a suggested punishment. It will then be appealed, and then it's up to Roger Goodell to either rule on the appeal or to name someone to listen to the appeal. Roger, do the right thing. You can't possibly think that we're going to accept you hearing the appeal for what you already have decided should be the punishment for Deshaun Watson. Give it to somebody else. Put it in someone else's hands. It, like you said, fall guy, but at least it puts him out of the target, out of the crosshairs, and it puts it into someone else's.
I'll make the call if you want, Raj.
Judge Jay is available.
Yeah, let Judge Jay work.
Judge Jay. So here's to you, Sue Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know.
Judge Jay will rule on this on Thursday for the record.
All right, very good. On that note, we're out of time. We are back tomorrow. We'll see you on the Ultimate Cleveland.
New record for views today. Thank you, everybody. We love you. See you tomorrow.
Another